Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Gonna wait for some people to join in. Welcome to another episode of Divine Talks, Conversations with the Soul. Our episode for today is The Other Side of Masculinity, and this is episode 4 of Divine Talks. Divine Talks is a platform right here on Instagram Live that talks about the things of our hearts, things of our souls, things that we talk about within ourselves or our inner circles, our loved ones, things that we go through within and don't have a platform or an outlet to talk about those things. That is the essence of Divine Talks. So again, the episode today is called The Other Side of Masculinity. We'll be joined by a wonderful co-host, Mr. Dash Hudson, and we're going to tackle the topic together and just dialogue within ourselves. It's open for comments, it's open for questions, and we'll be sharing tips around the topic, the other side of masculinity. Now, just before I bring him on, I just want to mention a few things here. As you know, for those of you who are following the page, we have a very exciting addition to Divination Life Coaching. We're now doing group coaching sessions. The essence of the group coaching session is to have a wellness space that's curated around healing and growth and relaxation. A place that we can commune in an intimate circle to talk about those things that we have a hard time talking about. The essence is to share coaching tips. The essence is to commune with other like-minded people who are going through the same things that we are going through. And also we're adding different practitioners in different aspects of wellness and healing based on the topic of the group session. So that's what we're doing. The registration, you can click on the link in the bio. You can learn a little more about the group coaching sessions. Once you click the link, it'll take you to the page to find out a little more about what the group coaching sessions entails and the rules around what group coaching sessions are. So without further ado, before we bring Mr. Dash on, this will be my first time meeting him in person, cyber person, and cyber visual remote person. So I'm excited for that as well. And I know a lot of us are excited because he's truly amazing in what he does. If you check out his platform, you see the wonderful things that he's doing, especially for the masculine in our community. So before I bring him on, I'm just going to center myself. If you guys are open to joining me in a centering session of grounding. This past few days have been a little weird for me personally. So I like the sounding bowl. It helps me calm my inner nerves and ground myself a little bit. So if you guys are open to joining me to center before we dive into this sensitive topic today. You can feel your feet on the floor. If you're sitting down, if you're laying down, just feel your body submerging into the bed, into the chair. If you're sitting, your feet on the ground, feel your feet. Bring your attention to your feet. Feel every part of your body. Relax your shoulders. Relax your mind. Relax your heart. Thank you guys for joining me in that. And without further ado, we are going to bring Mr. Dash Hudson. And we're going to get right into the topic. Again, feel free to comment, feel free to ask questions. If you have any tips on this topic, feel free to leave it in the comments. This is a platform not just for me, it's a platform for all of us. So thank you guys. Give me 1 second. Hey,
Hey, how's everything?
everything is
Trying to make sure my
well.
phone don't fall.
Yes, thank you for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Nah, I'm honored. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm honored as well. Thank you. Like I was saying, it's my first time actually meeting you in
Mhm.
person, but it's not really in person. It's more like virtual person. So nice meeting you officially.
You too. You too. Appreciate it.
Yes. Yes, of course. Now, before we go into anything, I would like you, I didn't give an intro about who you are. I would love for you to tell us who you are. I wanted to hear from your own words. So share with the audience who Mr. Dash Hudson is.
Every time someone asks me that question, because I think a lot of times we put who we are in a career, we put who we are in an accomplishment, and every day I'm meeting myself. Right.
Mm,
Every day I'm finding out different parts. Every day uh, I'm becoming more confident. I'm becoming more free. I'm becoming more honest. And with every level of growth and every level of freedom, a new me reveals itself. So that's what I'll say to the world. I accomplished many things. I've seen so many parts of the world. Um, One of my greatest accomplishments is being a father. Uh, that has been the most interesting, intriguing, beautiful experience. But other than that, like I say, I'm still learning myself. I'm still growing. I'm still meeting parts of myself every day. And I don't really put too much pressure on myself to define myself with things that I did. So
mm.
hopefully I didn't lose anybody with that. But that's it. I'm just
No,
growth. I'm growth,
not at all.
growing, and learning. So
Thank you. That was such an amazing answer. Even for me myself, I've been learning, especially in our society, when we say, who are you? Oh,
mm,
who's Loretta? Who's Dash? We always go to what we do, right?
mhm.
It's such a common thing. So I'm also learning and growing in that statement as well. Like, who are you? Well, I'm a daughter of the divine, right?
Yeah,
You're the son
definitely.
of the divine. So I'm learning that as well. Not saying I'm Loretta, this is what I do. I'm going to
Mm,
tell you who I am because you asked who I am. So thank you for that amazing answer. I understand what you mean. I definitely
mm,
understand what you mean. Um, so again, the topic is the other side of masculinity. The goal for me was to highlight what society understands about what masculinity is,
mm,
what we think, because this is just an open dialogue between you and I, and also
mm.
like a mini interview because I'm interviewing you as well, because I
Okay.
think you're interesting and I'm curious about you.
Appreciate it.
So, and I know a lot of people here are because of, I mean, what you're doing is not something that, in my own opinion, is not something that we see every day, especially in our community of
Mm,
men who are healing or
mhm.
men who talk about their healing journey or men
Mm.
who want to grow within themselves internally. So I think that's amazing personally, and I'm sure a lot of people think that way too.
Appreciate it.
Um, so the masculine the topic again is again to highlight what society understands about masculinity, what true masculinity is, and what the other side of masculinity is.
Mm.
So if you can kind of keep that mental note, that's what
Okay.
we're talking about today. Yeah, so I want to hear your opinion. What is your idea of masculinity?
I wanted to, even before we started, I looked up the definition. So they say qualities or attributes regarded to characteristics of a man, right? So for me, right, for me being and growing and learning of what manhood means to me, I think that will include in what I just communicated, because I grew up, and it's funny because I want to just be super transparent with you guys, right? So I just found out that my father died yesterday, right? So this is not
Oh,
don't look, because I know, like, that's our, like, first thing, like, we say, oh, sorry, right? But like
my
we
condolences.
no, I respect that, right?
How are you here right now?
Because, like, I could get into that, right? And for people who know my story, I didn't grow up with a father. So even though I had the opportunity to meet my father, like, we prematurely categorize inspiration. Even though my father wasn't in my life, he's my biggest inspiration, right? Because the love that he never provided for me, I learned how to have it because I never had it, right? So with masculinity, right, and someone passing down the traditions of what a man is, like, my number one provider of that was not there for me, right? So, and in my environments, a lot of my friends didn't have fathers either. And then, so one of the biggest outlets that taught me how to be a man was the television. And it wasn't the best representations that I was viewing, you know? So even as a man and as a father and growing and learning and healing, right? Because even as we got on the live, you said, who am I? Right? And it's hard to tell you who I am because I just met myself, right? I just met this version of myself. I just, you know, and it's like sometimes, I'm finding the word. So even on my content, it's real words from a new experience, from a genuine experience, from a loving experience, from a caring experience, and so many different phases of my life. So growing up, foster homes, being molested, crazy hospitals, gone through so much pain. But I equate pain to an education. Within that pain, I learned so much. Within that pain, it taught me so much. So in masculinity, right? To take that word and make it an experience, it is growth. It is understanding. It is the highest level of expression, right? Because we equate masculinity to being hard, to being tough, to being a provider, right? But when I grew up, when I didn't have a father, that created a coldness, that created an anger, that created a frustration. So without my father's protection and information, that left me vulnerable. It left me vulnerable, to pain. It left me vulnerable to the world, to the streets. It left me vulnerable to the misunderstandings and miscommunications that me and my mother had. And
Mm-hmm.
now I become a product of that pain. And this is how, like, when we look at society and we see one another, right? So if we see a poor representation of men, that man didn't start there. That man didn't start as that man that's in a relationship that don't know how to love, that don't know how to care, that don't know how to communicate. That man was a boy. That man was a baby. That man has a baby picture, right? So a man right now that's, like, getting on somebody's nerve, annoying them, and they don't have patience, that's someone's son, right? So a lot of mothers are raising young men, and you have the opportunity to grow and cultivate someone healthy,
Mm-hmm.
someone whole, someone healed, someone loving, someone caring, and someone balanced, right? So within masculinity, to define it, or to define it as the world defined it, or to be a physical representation of what that means to me, and based on my experiences and what me you ask, right? So if it's 10 years ago and you asked me masculinity, oh yeah, tough being, I gave you all the representations of what I knew in the moment. But masculinity is being able to travel in all elements of self and still remain confident and still remain loving and still remain caring and compassionate, and understanding and having the patience to understand, having the patience to grow, having the patience to cultivate growth, right? And taking everything that aligns within you and birthing it, right? So if you see me and you see my son, you will see the love that I have in his physical representation of him, right? So it's the highest level of love, and being able to interpret that love and transform that love into everything that you create, you know? So, like I say, I understand the world's perspective, and I understand the perspective that we try to communicate, but masculinity to me is beauty, is freedom, you know, it's education, it's confidence, you know, it's compassion, it's empathy, it's all of those things. Because the man that I am today, even though, you know, when I was in foster homes, crazy hospitals, I was tough because I was ignorant, right? So I stood on blocks where my friends died every day and I had nothing to live for, right? But masculinity is not saying like I'll do anything and I'll die for the people I love, right? I think it's more important to live for the people you love, you know, to live and to provide and to be able to guide and to be able to give wisdom and to be able to give understanding and have the magic wand to heal all of your generational curses.
Mm.
Right. So even as I tell you, you know, my father passed, and it's literally crazy how I found out. You know, I literally found out on Google. I was on Google literally last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, and literally like 7 o'clock. Because we didn't make it to the funeral. He passed um, June 29th. You know, so we're gonna release balloons and all of that. And
Oh,
that's
so
the
you're
thing.
just finding out yesterday that he passed about a month, almost a month ago,
Yeah.
or well, maybe a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. Wow.
Look, it's okay. Like I think sometimes we say that
I'm
out of
I'm just
program.
a very sensitive person, so now I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I think we say that out of programming, but we don't process it. I want you to know. I want you to know that I'm not connected to the pain of like my father passing.
Okay.
Like because, like I said, he wasn't a major part of my life, but he's my biggest motivation. The pain that he caused me from not being in my life.
Yeah.
Without that pain, like that is the ingredients. Like, cause sometimes we want to judge the blessing. Sometimes we want to judge the blessing. Sometimes we want to like, we want to, we want to like create what the blessing means. You know, so my father created me, and I feel it. I feel the concept, right? And that's a concept like of how we mourn, the perspective of how we mourn and how we feel. But the crazy thing is this: like when my father was alive, we didn't talk, and it was like we ain't have that relationship. And it was like literally last night I got the sensation of like, wow, I could really talk to you whenever I need you now.
It's amazing.
You know,
That's a great
in
point.
prayer and everything. But it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's still being rendered, you know, as far as
Yeah.
the processing of it or
It's
whatever the
still
case.
processing.
Yeah.
Yes. And thank you for being vulnerable to share that with us here. Also, what I'm hearing, your definition of masculinity is not just the strong side of being a masculine, it is also the other side, like you said, compassion, creativity. It's not just work, 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 providers. So you're saying that masculinity is a infusion of both of those things. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, because what can you provide if you can't provide wholeness? You know?
That's exactly why that I named the topic the other side of masculinity. And this is exactly why I sought to have you on here. So I'm glad that you just spilled whatever you just said was exactly what I felt was so important and why I had to have you end this topic. You know, we were dialoguing for a little
Yeah.
bit, sending you different topics, and we came to this,
Hmm.
and this is just a miracle that it's just it's right on point because this is what I want to highlight. We talk about society and what the programming of what a man should look like.
Hmm.
That's what we're going into next. You mentioned that, like what your what was mirrored to you
Hmm.
of what it should be like. Strength and the boy code and
Hmm.
things like that. Um, but now seeing as time went on that I guess that didn't work for you, you know. So what happened? I want to know what happened between the Dash some years ago that looked at masculinity a certain way, and what happened between that person and who you are now. I just want you to talk about that, you know, for some of us who want that understanding of how to transform, I guess.
Hmm. Um, it's
Was there
funny.
something that happened? Was there like a aha moment?
I want to sum it in just a moment. It's really like an unraveling of many different things. And it's crazy because I'm thinking about putting a clip together or a blog. And I was saying when a little boy is healed, the man will show up, right? And what I'm going to like talk about in this blog is, and I also put out a clip where I was talking about the boy, the male, the man. And women always communicate like, okay, how do you know the difference? That's what I got a lot in the comment section. Like, how do you know the difference of when you interact with a man, right? Because of course we can have the physical representation of what a man is. You can see a man suit, tie, and he could be successful in business, or he could be successful and he could look manly, right? But that man is going to break down in all the areas that he don't know how to connect to. So like I said, so let's go back into little baby kid me, right?
Yeah.
So I grow up. Um, my mother
Yeah,
was
let's talk about that. I'm sorry to cut you off. What was the programming? Because that's part of the outline. What is the programming at that age for men? What do you see? Is it the Marvel movies on the superhero movies? Is it in your case, I know you didn't have a father. You more or less were an alchemist. You transformed that pain into something. But say for those men that maybe had their fathers in the household, what is that? What did the father pass on to that little boy at that age on how a man should be, what they're seeing on TV, what they're learning in school? Let's talk about that in your younger ages. What was the role model of what a man should look like at that age for you?
well. Look, like I just told you, like what can you provide if you don't have wholeness, right? So it's a lot of young men and a lot of men that don't have, because it's all perspective, right? So it could
Yeah.
be one household. It could be one household where that's what the theme of how that man lives, as far as, we don't feel, we don't cry, we don't deal with emotions, and we just deal with toughness, right? So that could be a perspective. And one thing I always say, I'm not here to fight anyone's reality, right? But if we talking about healing, if we talking about, having the ability to truly provide, right? So you could say provide, okay, you say, okay, pay the bills, keep the roof over the head. But now you're in a house with a man or a husband that can't provide for you emotionally. He can't provide for you, internally. He don't know how to hug you. He don't know how to love you. He don't know how to be emotionally available. And all a man could give is the ingredients of his childhood. So like I said, when you go back to little me, young me, I grew up in a household, and my mother was young, and my mother had a lot of abuse and trauma, many things that I never knew about. But like I say, I grew up in a household where literally if I was crying or if I was having trouble, my mother would beat me until I stopped crying, you know? So imagine my young brain developing, and I know how to turn my tears off in the middle of expressing myself, or the middle of feeling. What damage is that doing to that little boy,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So being beat, being abused, and it's not that my mother, like I say, it's all feedback. It's all feedback. We give feedback. So the feedback of how my mother was parenting me was what she knew. So, I was being abused, I was being, hit, traumatized and everything. And then, like I said, so I was literally in survival mode. Like I wasn't alive as a kid.
I'm
And that's
sorry
what
to hear
that
that. I'm sorry to hear that. I must say this. Allow me to be me, Dash. Allow me to be me. I must
that's
say
funny.
these words,
No, no,
okay?
no. I
I'm
get it. I
sorry
get
to
it.
hear
I get it. I get it. I understand. I understand. And that's the thing about trauma. Like when you go through trauma, I repeat it how I hear it within myself, but I'm not trying to govern how it hits your heart. So
that. Of course. I get
if the nurturing in you want to like hug and say, oh, like
Allow me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm cool with
Access.
with the
Receive.
nurturing. I get it. Y'all can put hearts in the comment section. I don't wanna look. And I want you guys to understand what you're watching. Like, you're not watching neglect, or you're not watching a dismissal of what I've been through. I just learned how to extract the information from my experience. So
Okay.
I'm not angry at my mother. I'm not angry at the past. Because that's the thing. Like, sometimes we create coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms. Like, I dealt with it. I learned how to go into my childhood, right? Through some of the things that I worked on, so through some of the things that I built. I went into my childhood and I healed these areas of my life. Literally, my mother calling me right now. It's funny. She like, you talking about me? She must feel me talking about it.
Look at that.
Let me put the
Interesting.
energy. I'm sorry, mom. I love you. I love you. And that's the thing. Even today, me and my mother have the greatest relationship. And I always tell my mother I'm the first man she ever met, right? And I and
Mm.
I mean like
Yeah.
full level
Yeah.
love, protection, you know. But to go back to my childhood, my mother only parented me with what she knew. So if she knew abuse, she knew yelling, she knew screaming, she did not know how to discipline me with love. So I was really traumatized. I was in survival mode. I was emotionally illiterate. I did not know how to feel. I did not know how to comprehend my feelings. I grew up angry. I grew up mad. I grew up upset. I grew up suicidal. So I was cold. So that heart processes everything that way. Even if you love me, I hated you for loving me. Even if you cared, I hated you for caring. So you take me through that house, and then boom, like I said, I was molested at 6 years old, foster homes, crazy hospitals. I went through a journey and a roller coaster of education, right? People that say pain and trauma, but that was my college. My childhood taught me the most, right? So a lot of pain that people don't endure to their 20 and 30, I experienced it at a young age. So I'm like educated in pain. I know how to speak it.
Emotionally mature.
Yeah, I know how to speak it without breaking down, without being vulnerable, without closing and going into a dark room. I know how to talk it. I know how to
Blessing.
communicate it. So even
And
even
you've
as
gone through your own healing. You had to go through a
yeah,
healing process, so go ahead.
true cocoon. Like, when we go in that dark
Yeah.
space, when we're in that dark space, so imagine a butterfly in the dark space, and it's afraid of the dark, so it consistently rips open the cocoon. But you rip it open prematurely, right? So it's a lot of people in the dark space, but you don't understand that that is your growth. That is your development. That's your development for your wings. So to talk about masculinity, there was no concept of masculinity because I was just trying to survive. There was no concept of love. My mother didn't really love, hug. I was just trying to survive. I was just trying to live. I was just trying to make it day to day. I was trying to just figure out my world, and at the same time processing it, because when you remove feelings, you're just thinking life, you're not feeling it. So literally, as a grown man, like 5 years ago, like, I just learned how to smile. And what I mean by that is register the feelings that come with the smile. I knew how to make the face expression, but I never felt a smile. I never felt a hug. I never felt how the word love resonate to the soul.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of men that, like I say, so take all the trauma that I've been through and put me in a relationship. That's what happened. Like, I hurt people because, not because I was evil, angry, or wicked. I didn't process emotions. So let alone, like, I grew up in an environment where my friends were dying around me. I never cried. I never felt death. I never understood it. I never understood sadness because it was turned off at a young age. So now you put me in a relationship, and if I'm hurting you, if you're crying, so the thing that women call narcissists sometimes, it is someone being emotionally dead, someone not having an emotional intelligence and being emotionally expressive. So I lack the ability to process love. So when you remove love from any living thing, man, female, animal, you remove love, you remove feelings, then I have no empathy. I have no compassion for other things. So masculinity was dismissed for survival. So when you talk about my younger childhood, it was survival. It wasn't the concept of masculinity. It was protection, like protecting myself. So I always was angry. I always was cold. I always was, mad and upset. And I always say attitudes are evidence of misery. You know,
Say that again.
attitudes are evidence of misery. You
Okay.
know, like I
Yeah.
was I was miserable. The anger came
Yeah.
from days of tears that just built up. You know, and built up trauma, built up frustration, and so like I said, just to talk about that process, and then if you ask me about my healing journey, which came many years later, many breakdowns later, room full of tears, my tears, we could swim in them. you know, we could swim in my tears. But one of my breakthroughs for me was my son. You know, my son was my breakthrough for me because for the first time I was staring at the beginning of myself. And it's a quote that I say, a man that grew up without his father can heal himself by being there for his son, right?
I love that.
So to
Yeah.
learn how to love my son, I had to learn how to love. you know,
Yes.
I had to learn how to love. I had to learn how to feel. I had to learn how to communicate. So just day by day by day by day by day, I challenged myself. And for the first time, it felt like I had something to live for. It felt like I had something to live for. And like I say, it's many different things that happen through those processes. But that was the aha moment for me. Just seeing him,
Yeah.
just seeing him, just seeing him see me. That was
Yeah.
like another thing because I met his mother. We was 14. We was like 14. She was a part of my healing development as well because she was the first person that I seen see me.
Mm.
Right before then, I just always felt invisible. I always felt worthless. So I was in foster homes. I was in crazy hospitals. But something happened where I went back home at the age of 14. And then that's the first time I went to a regular school with girls because I was in like all boys schools and like crazy hospitals, and I was like Ritalin straight jackets. Like I literally was in like
Wow.
insane asylums. So
Wow.
my son mother, man, like I remember like it was yesterday. Like I seen her see me, you know, and like it gave me so much life. It gave me so much life because I never seen me be like I never felt someone's energy see me. So she sparked so much life in me. So even me and my son mother, we got a journey. Like she was molested as well. She was in foster home as well. So we literally had like a trauma bond. But of course,
Hold on.
you don't understand that at a
At that
young
time, at
age. Yeah.
14, right? Yeah.
So she gave me life. She gave me life. And that's why to this day, like we haven't been together for years romantically, but that's why to this day, like I have a love for her. And even like a lot of people see me and they think I have one son, one biological son, but literally when it comes to my son mother, I got 6 kids because every one of her kids is my kids. I love them. I value them. I like.
Yeah.
I know all their fathers, and they gotta know like, hey, I love
Yeah.
all, and they like. We just have that bond and that relationship, and that's what an investment is. So I know it's a quote, and I know sometimes women say, "I'm not here to raise a man," right? But if you stop looking at that like raising a man like a child, that's not the concept. Like my son mother raised my level of awareness for myself, right? So that small investment that she ain't even know she was doing turned into a lifelong love of confidence. So even with me, like I raised my son predominantly most of his life, because she got into a situation, whatever the case. So I had custody of my son since he was 4. And like I still never say I did it alone because the love that she invested in me exists that I raised him with. Who
That's
knows what
powerful.
who knows what happens if she never did that for me,
Mm.
you
Wow.
know? So
Wow. And as you're talking in my mind, I'm just thinking like on the spiritual aspect of that is the feminine energy,
Hmm.
the importance of the feminine energy. Now, it came through her as a person, as
Yeah,
a
yeah,
woman,
yeah.
but that's the feminine energy within yourself as a man that
Hmm.
needed to be reflected for you to make those internal changes within yourself. So this is exactly the essence of this, the other side of masculinity. I didn't want to say use the word femininity because
Yeah,
that word is controversial. Like, okay, are you talking about should men be feminine?
yeah.
No, that's not the essence of it. But this is exactly what I meant
Hmm.
by, I mean, look what that did in the
Yeah.
transformation of you,
Gave me
feminine.
life. She blew breath.
Yeah.
She blew breath into. She blew breath into my low self esteem. She blew breath into my voids. She blew breath, and it's also like a good and bad thing sometimes too, because sometimes we don't date people. Sometimes we date voids,
Mm.
right? So my son mother
Mm.
showed up as everything my mother never did. You know, she showed up as the hug, the care, the compassion, right? And maybe she's seen something through me that was in her journey, but it was everything that I needed. You know, and sometimes we look at each other as the enemy of our own pain.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is I did look at women as the pain my mother caused me,
Of
right?
course.
And I think some women look at men as the pain their father caused them. And
Mm.
when you heal and when you work on that, right, it allows you a new energy to introduce a new love into your life. Because if you got that guard up, if you got weapons and you got a bulletproof vest over your soul, then I gotta fight to get to know you. I gotta fight to love you. I gotta fight to learn you. And it's like about time I get to you, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why people get in relationships and they consistently see the same person all over again, because you made that person fight for your heart, and now that person is exhausted, and now you see that show up as a person that's not consistent. You see that show up as a person that's dismissive, because now they don't know when they reach for a hug if they're going to be hugged back, if when they say they love you if they're going to be told they love you back, because we have these inner fights and inner wars. That's why I say there's no such thing as being single. You're always in a relationship. So, you know, and that relationship is with yourself. And the things we go through, the things that we've been through, like and I'll say, like, me and my son mother, we definitely harmed and hurt one another through our trauma and pain. And like I said, I didn't have the full grasp of feelings. Like I didn't feel like you could literally be crying in front of me. I'm looking at you like you're crazy because I don't know how that feels
Mm.
when I was younger. You know, until I learned, until I processed feelings, emotions, and the expressions of the feelings. You know, and it's like until we have compassion and empathy for that, it's always going to be a miscommunication.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know.
This is exactly why, and I think that the universe is forcing all of us to find that balance within ourselves. I'm going to have a topic, the other side of femininity as well. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do that, but this is all about the balance, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It is very important. I mean, I think that now a lot of us are seeing that being too much on one side is not
Yeah.
really working for us anymore. So everything is forcing us to
Yeah.
honor both energies within ourselves. So
And it's
let's see.
also it's also all marketing. Like, where did that concept come from to tell us we have to live in these concepts?
Exactly.
You know, I
Exactly.
feel the strongest. I feel the most confident. It's one thing to be cold and to be hard and to be tough. It's another thing to know how to utilize what you need. I want to know how to access love within myself when I need it. I want to know how to access softness inside of myself when I need it. I want to know how to access the warrior in myself when I need it, right? But I don't want to be angry when I'm supposed to be loving something, right? And that's
Yeah.
the concept I live by, one me. You know,
Yeah.
the same me that my mother know is the same me that my son know. I never have to get on camera and like be a character. You know, I'm one me. And I that's to me, like, I show up as love. You know, I don't care who I'm around. I could be all my boys, like, yo, I love you. You know what I'm saying? I show up as love. I don't know how to live in a shell, and I
Yeah.
don't
And
want to
how
live in a
freeing
shell.
is that? How
It,
much freedom is that to be? Look, I felt that breath because look, I mean, I went through my own journey too of just
yeah.
authenticity is the best way. It's just It's just so, it's less work. It's
Yeah,
just it's so
yeah.
cool. It's
You could
so
show
cool.
up. You could just show up as
Yeah,
yourself, you know. And I don't get
exactly.
the thing about pretending to be. I gotta always remember who I was pretending to be, you know. And when you're authentic, I could be who I am. And then if I grow, I could explain my growth.
Yeah,
But I'm not a prisoner to this perspective of what a masculine man is, what a black man is. No,
yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
learning, healing, growing being. You
yeah.
know,
Let
and
me
it's
let me
like,
see here. Okay,
yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry. I
no,
just
no,
want to
no,
check.
no, it's okay.
I'm just looking through some of the questions here. Let's see what people are saying. It came from the Western value system. Yeah, I guess on the topic, how did that programming come? The Western
Yeah,
value system, like we said earlier. What? Yeah, maybe we can just list out some things. What are some of the things that you can think of on how it derived? Like I said, Marvel movies, the idea that men don't cry, the what we're seeing other as men. I'm assuming when I say we, I'm just speaking about the collective, men
hmm
and women. But as men, it's like, you're seeing your peers do something and you don't want to feel like the odd one, so peer pressure. So what are some things that you would say um shape this programming of what a man should look like, what a black man should look like, what a masculine man should look like, um in
Well,
society? What are some programming you can think of?
of course, like this generation, like it's something that I created, right? And I call it manufactured thought syndrome, right?
Mm,
It's so many of us. I literally know my whole childhood. All my friends was menace to society. Like we literally picked out characters of who we thought we was, and then we lived those characters, right? So when you
mm,
see television, when you see, because that's literally what raised me. What raised me is
yeah,
the television.
the TV. Okay.
I was somebody on TV, you know,
Yeah.
and even how we date and we introduce. So when you look at enough characters, or when you look at enough characteristics or enough imagery, now you think that the representation of what that is the truest essence of that perspective. So that is your diet. Like I always say, it's important to watch your diet, not only what you put into your stomach, but what you put into your eyes, you know, what you put into your ears. You have to watch what you are allowing to interact with your eyes and your soul over and over and over again, because when you think that's the norm, you look for that, and you don't consciously understand or know that that is what you're looking for, that's what you're attracting, that's what's vibrating to you, that's what you're connecting with. And when you see anything outside of that image or representation, it's going to be off to you because you're not going to know how to interact with it, right? So, like I always say, ignorance is the most expensive thing in the world because you're going to have to pay for everything you don't know, right?
Mm,
So, when people profit off of our ignorance, then it's going to be a system of something educating you to be ignorant. So, if you remove my father out of the house with whatever tools, whether it's lust, whether it's drugs, whether it's whatever it is, and then you market that as a lifestyle or you market that as a culture, and then now we adapt to that culture or that
yeah.
perspective or that way of life. So
Yeah.
even through me being there for my son, right? I like, because I say this too, like, are you raising prison inventory?
Wow.
You know, so even me being in my son life, and I'm not saying my son's gonna be perfect, like he's the most beautiful amazing human I know, but
Yeah.
when I was
I've been
his
following
age,
his videos. Yes. I would like to talk about that in a second as well. Go ahead.
when I was his age, I'm in stolen cars, I'm doing everything that my neighborhood is doing, like
Yeah. Yeah.
just because that's what my neighborhood is doing, and there's no one there to protect me. I was out of the house, my mother wasn't finding me, like, but now
Yeah.
me being in my son life, I give him all of these conversations, I give him all this information, I give him all this substance. He lived through me, he lived through my eyes, he lived through my heart, he lived through my wisdom. So now he's not running into the same traps that I ran into. And now he like, I look at love like a platform, right? So I grew up void of love. I had nothing to stand on, nothing to build on. I had no foundation, right? But now, like with my son, I passed down the legacy of love to him. So he didn't have to grow up searching this void and emptiness. He grew, and he was just able to cultivate in the love that was there for him. for me, I was searching, I was yearning, I was fighting, I was battling for attention, right? So even in my house, right, I fell in love with being abused
Mm.
because that's the only time I got my mother's attention.
Mm.
So I had two older sisters, I had a younger sister. So my mother related to her daughters. She connected with her daughters. I'm just the boy in the house, you know, and I think I reminded my mother of my father. So that's why I think a lot of my pain got passed down. That he's like, oh, there's a little him, you know, and it's like, so like whenever I got my mother undivided attention was when she was hitting me. So I started to do everything to get hit,
Wow.
you know, and
Um,
like I say, like, and then imagine me,
like some attention, any attention is better than no attention, right?
yeah. And believe it or not, that's what a lot of people are doing in relationships. Like they think an argument is love. They think a fight is love.
Yeah.
They think
Yeah.
neglect is love. And that was literally, even one time I got hit by a car 2 times, right? First time ain't nothing really happened to me. The second time I got hit and the car hit my legs or whatever the case. And but I wasn't really hurt. But this was the first time I seen my mother care, like on her face. So I never seen my mother care. I never seen her face expressions of care. So I was fake hurt for like 2 weeks, you know, just to extract
Yeah.
my mother's love. And like as a grown man, we could look at it like, oh, that's bad. You're wasting the taxpayers' money. But in my young mind, I wasn't thinking
Yeah.
about that. I'm
You're not
like,
worried about that.
yeah, I just want to pull this love from my mother,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So I had no foundation of love. I was fighting,
Yeah.
I was yearning, I was battling. And
Yeah.
this is what we never interrupt. This is what we never have empathy and compassion for. Like even us through my content, like I put up content and I'm not biased. I'm not here to like cater to women or cater to men. I cater to love,
Yeah.
you know? So
Exactly.
like I have to be honest, you know, sometimes I put up content for women and it's like 100 million reasons why a woman go through this, and a man is just like, oh no, because he's a narcissist. Like, okay, what happened to his pain? What happened to
Yeah.
his?
This is why this conversation, this is
Yeah,
the whole essence of why I have this platform. That I'm just allowing it to do its thing. Wherever it goes, it goes. But my heart is saying to do this because it's
yeah,
time to communicate. It's time to get back that balance because we're
yeah,
clearly suffering. Individually, the feminine and the masculine is suffering, and it's
yeah.
because we lack integration. We don't understand that that's what we're missing within ourselves, the masculine and feminine within ourselves as men and women, and then together.
You
That
know
is
how
really,
you know how I describe that, and not to cut you off, right? So a lot of my
yes,
clients, not to, a lot of my clients that I work with, so I also do one-on-one sessions, you know, guiding people through relationships, mental health. A lot of the things that I learned, also putting in my books or whatever the case. But I equate it to this, right? So you want like you can talk about masculine, feminine, or whatever the case, but I equate it to this, right? So let's say we're in a relationship, right? And let's say we're in a building. Let's say you're on the fifth floor and I'm on the 15th floor, right? And every day we go back and forth with what we see. So you're on the fifth floor and you tell me, hey, I see a fire hydrant. I see the crossing guard. I see the corner store, right? Every day, this is what you tell me you see on the fifth floor. And every day we're both on the phone and we're looking out the windows and we're sharing our point of view in this 15th floor building. And I'm telling you what I see. Hey, I see the skyscrapers, I see the airplane, I see the Statue of Liberty. And now these are our point of views. It's real. My reality is real to me. Your reality is real to you. And every day we're going back and forth with what we see. I could look at you like if we're in an argumentative space, you're telling me what you see. I'm telling you what I see. And now
mm-hmm.
we're like, I don't see that. How do you see
Yeah,
that? Like equate the building to a relationship. If so
mm-hmm.
many people in a relationship and they're going back and forth with what they see, I see this, but you don't see this, you crazy. And that creates the disconnection.
Yeah,
Like the problem is not the problem. Well, the problem is not you or me. The problem is what is the solution to us having a balanced understanding of what we see, right?
mm,
So let's equate the fifth floor to your emotional space. And let's equate the 15th floor to my mental space, right?
Okay.
I need you to trust me enough to allow me to just elevate you, right? Let me elevate you. And I need you to think, right? So I understand that you feel, I hear your feelings, but I need you to do me a favor. I need you to trust me and get on the elevator and go to the 10th floor, right? So in a relationship, trust is everything. Because if you don't trust me to guide you, you're not going to get on the elevator to go to the 10th floor, right? But as long as you trust me enough to go to the 10th floor, right? And you go to the 10th floor. I don't need you to come to where I am. Just go to the 10th floor, please, right? So now I need to have that love, compassion, and understanding for you. So when you bring me down from my ego, say, hey, I need you to stop, get out of your ego and pride, and I need you to feel what I'm saying. Can you please come to the 10th floor with me? And I come to the 10th floor. And now we're on an equal playing field. You're not where you are, and I'm not where I was. And when we both look out the window, guess what we're going to see?
The same thing.
We're going to see what each other was talking about. Oh, I see the fire hydrant. Oh, I see the
Yeah.
skyscraper. So
Yeah.
the communication, you know, the empathy, the compassion, the trust, the understanding, the
Vulnerability.
wisdom, the vulnerability, that is what's going to bring the connection. You can't stay where you are and think the world exists there. I can't stay where I am and think the world exists there. You have a lot to teach me. You can educate me. You can guide me, and vice versa. And we have to trust one another to put each other in that space and trust and safety. Because if we're fighting, we're in defense mode. I'm trying to love you and you're blocking. You're trying to care and I'm running. We have to allow the education of mind, heart,
Yeah.
emotion, understanding to be balanced.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I think that was so beautiful. I love that analogy. That was really beautiful. To me,
thank
it just kind of shows that it shows how we're first before we can come together as a masculine and as a feminine
you. Mm,
in the physical. It still goes back to what I'm saying. I think that that's our problem. We're not balanced within ourselves.
mm,
Um, and I think that's conversations like this are important because I don't think that we see where the problem is. We're fighting each other, but
mm,
it's because we're fighting ourselves.
mm-hmm.
So it all starts with self. It all
Yeah,
starts with self. I don't even know how we got to that part of it,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And that's why I say, like, it's no such thing. Like a lot of people sit by themselves and they think it's no work to be done. That's why I
Yeah.
say that's why I
Yeah.
say it's no such thing as being single. You're always in a relationship. Even
It's
even 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 when women ask me like, "Hey, are you in a relationship?" Yes. Like I never, whether I'm with someone, I'm
yeah.
always with me. So I'm
Yeah.
always in a relationship. But if you ask me to clarify, am I in a relationship with another person? No. But am I in a relationship with myself? Every day, every second. I'm faithful, I'm loyal, I'm honest, I'm caring, I'm compassionate. And if you don't know self, you don't know how someone needs to show up for you. If you never show up for you that way, and you can't
Exactly.
even give yourself to someone if you don't know you. You
Exactly.
know?
So we're fighting the person, not knowing we're fighting our inner selves,
Yes.
the other part of ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let me see here. Let's take some questions. See, if it's not a matter of right or wrong, it's a person's perspective, which is valid. It's not a matter. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that's what you
Yeah.
were saying
I,
earlier.
I, I always say your perception and perspective controls your reality.
Mm-hmm.
Based
Mm-hmm.
based on your point of view. Like even me, like my background is being a director, right? So literally, I could show you a production room with 5 cameras, and based on the angle I show you, you'll think you've seen something that never happened. I'll show you camera 1, and you're like, oh, that's crazy. How that happened? Then I show you camera 2, and you're like, oh, that ain't really happened that way, right? So life is the same way. When two people are in a relationship or family, like the perspective of the father is not the perspective of the 2-year-old daughter. The perspective of the 2-year-old daughter is not the same of the 15-year-old son. So it's all perspective. You could think you was there for your daughter. She could be like, no, you just bought me things, but you were never there for me when I needed you. I could never feel like I could talk to you. People are in relationships starving one another emotionally, mentally. You think you there because you paying the bills and you got the roof over your head. No, she needs you. She want to talk to you. She want to hug. She want to tell you, what's taking place. She want to tell you, you know,
She
uh,
wants to meet the other side of your masculinity.
yeah. She want to tell you that my eyebrows is crooked when I got them arched.
Yeah.
My edges, I'm losing my edges. Like, she want to be able to interpret her world and things that mean what they mean to her. She want to have intercourse with you. She don't want to just be pumped. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing as men, like we want our world to be valued and understood. This is not just sports to us, right? It could look like people playing on a basketball field, right? But this is my one moment of closure and peace. So this is my sanctuary, you know? So it's about understanding each
Understand.
other's world without
Yes.
dismissing it as something stupid or goofy or dumb, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. Beautiful. Let's see here. Trusting ourselves, loving ourselves, being vulnerable with ourselves. J. Gerard Carter says Black excellence. Black Hair Shop says I love to hear a black man speak like this. Yes. Let's see.
That stuff ain't even working.
In her eye says you have to trust yourself first. Most people don't. Yes. Keep it classy says I love that analogy. I think that was when you were explaining.
The building,
Uh,
15th floor.
yes. Vulnerability, understanding, perfectly said, come to a common ground. Yes, balancing both sides
Mm-hmm.
of those energies within yourself and in your relationships or whatever else.
And look, you,
In
you
a
you know what? You know why that's difficult for a lot of men, right? Because like I explained my childhood, all the pain I've been through. So systematically, young men are being parented how women treat men. So a lot of women, honestly, are telling little boys, stop acting like a little girl, stop crying, and right. So now when you disconnect that young man's emotional space and you don't teach him how to be vulnerable, you don't teach him how to be loving, how to be caring, like you're creating like because it's the whole narcissist conversation, right? And I'm not like I say, it's no fault
yes, yes,
when we're talking about like even me, like let's say somebody was like, "Oh, you're a narcissist." Da, da, da. Okay, I was manufactured by a black woman. My mother created me, and it's not fault. So yes, my father wasn't there, right? But now you like all the women that's watching and women of the world, you have the opportunity to cure the world of a healthy man. Your son that you have, don't ignore him. Don't belittle him. Don't disrespect him. Don't tell him to shut up and not allow him to communicate. Don't tell him he's acting like a little girl when he cries. Let him express himself. You are the manufacturer. You are the author. You are the creator of his mind, his heart, his emotional space, right?
yes,
So it's so many men that never learned how to be vulnerable, how to care, how to open up, and that started when I was younger. And it's so many men, like when you get into your relationship at like 2021, the first time somebody asks you, hey, why don't you know how to talk or feel? Like, because my whole life, people told me, shut up, sit down, stop acting like a little girl. And the safe spaces, like I say, sometimes we get triggered. So even if I say, of course, it's a lot of dynamics. It's a lot of reasons why fathers are not there. Of course, it's a lot of reasons why single mothers are raising children by themselves. But the opportunity that you have to
yeah,
cultivate a healthy young man
yeah,
with awareness, with balance, you have the power. My mother had the power. Thank God I healed and thank God I figured it out. But I would have been you know, enemy to the woman race, you know. But it's like when you find that love, I'm choosing to speak the love. I'm choosing to be a guinea pig of healing, of
yeah,
being a father, of figuring it out. My goal is not to be perfect and act like I know everything. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still open for advice. I'm still open for information. I learn every day from my son. I learn every day from his younger brothers. I'm open, and that's what it's about. I just think it's about, you know, like I always say, you're one perspective away from being who you're trying to be, being who you want to be. So I don't always know. I'm just computing from the things that I've been through. and communicating from the things that I've been through, talking about my experiences, talking about my friends' experiences, you know, interpreting and elaborating on the things that a lot of men don't know how to say or don't have the courage to say. A lot of men won't say, hey, I have been molested. A lot of men in the world have been molested. And that's what create their pain and their darkness, is not conversations to make us feel comfortable, to make us open up, to make us speak. So they deal with the judgment of, okay, somebody gonna look at me like this or look at me like that, you know, and that sits as anger, that sits as frustration, that sits as, and that's like when I was in the foster homes and crazy hospitals, I was angry. I fought every day. I wanted to hurt myself. I wanted to hurt other people. That was all the conversations that I never had with my mother. That was all the hugs that I never got. That was all the times I told I was like nothing. So I showed up in the world that way. I showed up in the world. I showed up in the world being a representation of my inner self.
Yeah, of lack. Yeah,
Yeah.
of no self value. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's another topic, but that particular topic is so important in most of our lives. I know personally, I dealt with that. I had to come out of that looking at myself as low or not
Mm-hmm.
having enough value. We don't even realize as kids that that's happening till you
Mm-hmm.
get to be an adult. You're like, wait, hold on, why is this happening? Then you reflect and you go through a healing journey and you realize, wow, I didn't really value myself a lot. That's why I allowed all these other things to happen, you know. So it's and thank you also for talking about your mother, the way you were raised, and kind of like a outcry or disclaimer to women, mothers or
Mm-hmm.
future mothers, because you're right, we are the gateway to civilization. We're
The manufacturers,
the
you guys,
manufacturers, and it
you're
really
manufacturing the black man, you know, and of
it's
course
very
it's
true.
a whole nother lesson. And I got so many things I plan to do. Like I'm gonna have whole courses on understanding, because even like when I was talking about the blog, when a little boy is healed, the man will show up. So I want to give the signs, right? So everything that I was battling within myself that I did not heal showed up as voids when I was trying to love women. So the reason I had a hatred towards some women, because I still had a hatred towards my mother, right? Her giving me away, her never loving me, her never hugging me, her never giving me
Like
attention.
you said, a mother is a son's first love, and in your case, like you just said, you didn't have that, you
Yeah.
know.
And sometimes that's always the quote, like, oh, how could you disrespect black women? Right. But what if a black woman was your abuser and was your like person that traumatized you? So a lot of men are speaking out on that as well. But the
Yes.
thing that is lacked, they don't know how to like communicate the conversation all the way through. So
Mm.
you hear the anger instead of the communication. So that's why even
Yeah,
see
yeah,
how when I tell you my story and you like, oh, and I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like, no, I learned. I'm
yeah,
computing. I'm computing my journey from an observer. Like it's one
yeah.
thing. Like when we look at our trauma, we're feeling it. Like we go back to our trauma and we're still being hit. Like I went to every angle of my healing. I seen myself being abused, being hit, being yelled at. Then I seen myself from the perspective of what my mother was going through. Then I seen myself from the perspective of watching it in its entirety. Then I seen myself from the perspective of, okay, how do you heal that? Right? So that's the thing. Like a lot of people won't even feel the feelings of their trauma. So that's why they can't heal from it. Like you got to think it, you got to feel it, you got to allow yourself to sit there. It's another thing that I communicate to a lot of my clients too. And this put a lot of things into perspective, right? So if I ask you, what was your favorite outfit in sixth grade? You don't remember, right? All right, look.
Um,
Some
I
people
probably could. I
remember.
think I have a visual in my head of what it was.
Yeah. Some people remember. They'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I had the LA gears on. I had this, that, right?"
Okay.
So what I tell them, and I'm like, "Can you still fit that outfit from sixth grade?"
Hmm.
And when they say, "No, I can't fit that," why would I? Then I'm like, "Okay, if you can't fit a physical outfit, then why are you still wearing your emotional outfit?"
Hmm.
Right? A lot of us are still wearing emotions from sixth grade.
Yeah.
We still have those same emotions, and we still feel them and we still think of them the same way. You have to know how to look at those emotions from an adult perspective. How did that happen to you? Why did that happen to you? Forgive yourself. Love yourself. Be the parent that you never had. Close your eyes. Meditate on the moment. Go back in the moment and save yourself. Rescue
Mm.
yourself out of the moment. You
Yeah, the
know?
little boy and the little girl. Yeah,
Yeah.
the inner child healing.
And that's the
Yeah.
problem. It's a lot of boys that's wearing a man costume, but he's still that little boy in there, right? So that's why I always say, like, when the little boy is healed, like I had to go in there, like, put out fires. It was so much to go save myself, but I had to go in there, man. I had to go save myself. I had to talk to myself. I had to love myself. I had to reprogram myself, and I had to set that little boy free. Junior, by the way, like I had to, before I had a son. Well, my son taught me how to, like, talk to that me,
Okay.
and it's big for us to go back and rescue that little girl, that little
Yeah.
boy in there.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I would be, and as to close out in a minute, I would like us to close out with how that healing happened. Someone just asked, well, how do you heal? So we can share some tips on what you went through, some different paths that you took to heal. We'll share that in a minute. Let's see here. So we've talked about what masculinity is. We've talked about how it derived, how it was formed from society, from programming, from our
Mm,
parents. Um, we've talked about what it truly is and what society sees it as.
mm,
Have we kind of touched on that?
yes,
Like what the general view of what a masculine should be and what
yes.
it really is in its essence. I think
Hmm.
we've kind of talked about that. So I would like us to talk about where does this misconception, so the misconception of I'm masculine or I'm a man and it's supposed to look like this. So where does that show up in reality, in relationships, in work, in business, in where does that show up? That misconception. So example, like maybe the hero complex.
Hmm.
You're in a relationship with a woman and maybe you have friends, obviously. So just an example is, does that show up as because of the programming of a man, I have to be here for everyone else because I'm a hero? How
Mm.
does that sound to you? Tell me what you think about that.
So that's another thing I always say, right? I always say you're only worth your thoughts, right? So when you think, those thoughts turn into behaviors, and in a lot of our behaviors, we create habits from them. So even in body language, right? Body language is the first communication. For the most part, you could see sometime the breakdown and like what people are going through, right? So talking about trauma, talking about pain, talking about the absence and void of love. So these representations is going to be the education of what you had, the education you had in your environment, the education you had in your household, the education you had from your society. That's what you're going to show up as, and you're going to act out that physical representation of that movie, that physical representation of what your father was doing in the house, the physical representation of your environment, right? So those marketed perspectives of masculinity,
Mm-hmm.
without the full perspective or without the wholeness, right? So it's like genetically modified and organic, right? If you never seen a watermelon with seeds in it, if you never seen an organic watermelon, you think a watermelon don't come with seeds.
Yeah.
I remember I went to Africa and I thought the long
Oh,
bananas
you've
was the
been to
real, but
Africa. Nice.
yeah,
What part
I've
of
been to
Africa did you go to?
Johannesburg, Namibia, Tanzania. Yeah, so
Amazing. I'm
yeah,
from Nigeria.
okay,
Interesting.
Lagos.
Yeah, that's amazing. You said Lagos?
Yeah,
I lived in Lagos, but I'm not from Lagos.
okay. So
I
I didn't
moved
even know.
there.
I didn't even know you was in Nigeria. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We were
Cool.
supposed to go there before the pandemic. Like we could have been there like 20 times, but those flights, it's something to
Yeah.
Tanzania was 21 hours.
Yeah. It's a couple of flights.
Yeah, it's real. It's a
Yeah,
lifetime.
it's very
You're
real.
literally in the air for a day.
Yeah,
But
seriously.
yeah, so when I went to Namibia and I seen real fruit and different fruit and fruit I never
Hmm.
seen and how bananas look, and I'm like, so I thought like in America bananas is like real long and it's like, so it's the same thing. If you never see a full representation of love, I had to become a man to know a man.
Yeah.
You know, like I had to become a man to know a man. Like especially in urban environments, it's a shortage of a man. Like yes, it's males and the representation, but a man is organic. It's the complete genetic representation of the physical being, right? Manhood. You master discipline. You master focus. You master empathy. You master, and it don't mean you perfect, but you
Yeah.
master
But that's a
self.
balance. That's a balanced
Yeah,
man. That's a man that's masculine, understands his masculine traits and his feminine traits,
yeah.
and is balanced.
You
Yeah,
have
that's a man.
you have the seeds in you. You know,
Yeah.
you're not genetically modified by images and a representation of what you should be, because I believe all those representations creates the disconnect. If I think it's all about me, if I'm in my ego, if I'm in my pride, pride blocks me from understanding you. Pride blocks love. Pride blocks me being the full, compassionate, caring father that I need to be. And also, pride is a defense mechanism, right? Because like I talk about, like I was saying, like me being abused and going through all the things I had, all I had was my anger as a little kid, right? So that anger as a man, it turns into an argument. All I got is my anger to protect me. All I got is my pride to protect me. All I got is my ego to protect me. So even with the narcissist thing, it's not that a man is self-centered. He go into self because that's all he could do.
Yeah.
You know, so in those false representations of men, we're losing family, we're losing fathers, we're losing protectors, we're losing providers, and this is what is creating a separation of household, because the inner void shows up as an outer void.
Hmm. Of
You know.
course. That was beautifully said. Beautifully said. Exactly. The inner void shows up as the outer void.
Yeah. So the love I don't have for me, I can't give for you. So
At
were you like,
all.
yeah, were you like, oh, but I need you to be. That's why I always say responsibility. Responsibility is responding to ability. How can I respond to an ability that I lack?
Hmm.
If I don't know how to love me, if I don't know how to be faithful, if I don't know how to be loyal, it's going to show up in my outer relationship, because my inner relationship, I'm void of these things. So even bringing a man into your life, you want to see the things that you need from him within him. You want to see and make sure that he's loyal, faithful, honest, right? So some simple things like, you in a relationship with a man, let me tell you the first thing, like a representation of love. Right? So you see my screensaver?
Yes. Your son? Is that your son? Yeah.
It's my son. Like a man is gonna show love, see love. You wanna like they say, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Hmm.
A man's highest level of love and representations of love, you're gonna see it in, on him, and around him. Right? How he treat his children is a representation of love. How he treat the things and people, that is his love communication, his love uh,
Love language?
breakdown.
Or,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, and if you see void of that, if you see frustration, if you see anger in those spaces, if you get into a conversation where you need him to be emotionally available and communicative, and he don't know how to be, and if he get angry, if he get dismissive, he's showing you his behavior is the answer.
Hmm.
Right? His behavior is showing you that he don't have the ability. So when you need him to be that for you, he's going to be void of that.
Hmm. Because it's void within.
Bingo.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so what I have written down as far as where does it show up, and just flow with me on this. I have at work and career, overworking.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Again, we're still talking about the misconception. So I'm overworking because I feel like as a man, I need to work hard because it shows how strong I am, how much of a provider, how much of a leader I am for my household.
Mm.
What do you think about that? I mean, of course, nobody's saying these things are not important,
Yeah,
but we're talking about balance here.
yeah. I think it's a healthy balance because look, even in a relationship, like uncontrolled love could become an enemy to a man's purpose, right?
Mm,
Because like we're purpose driven. So a focused man is going to be focused on like building, you know, like we have to build, we have to create, we have to build, right? But the minute you fall in love, the minute you have a family, now just the mere fact that you love someone, it's like, I want to just sit and watch Netflix and I just want to hold you every day. But now that takes me away from my purpose, right? It takes me away from my purpose.
let's
It
talk
takes
about that. What is it's like men don't really know how to balance. Is that what I'm hearing?
it's not knowing how, right? Because this, right? So like I just told you, a lot of people be like, "Oh my God, you're so this, you're so that," right? And they like people that I meet, and they're like, "Wow," but I'd be like that to myself because I just met myself. Like I just learned how to use my heart. Just
Mm,
learned how to. I'm just because like I said, when I was a little boy, I never connected to my feelings, never connected to my emotions, never connect. So I never utilized my heart, right? So even like I'm sure you probably can relate. Like you've been in a relationship, you met the perfect man. You know, suit looked nice, he smelled good. Like, oh my God, he's so beautiful and nice, right? And then now when things get serious, you're like, oh my God, he's crazy, he's a maniac, right? It's not that he's a maniac. It's just that he has feelings for you now. And now you went from a mental space or a sexual space to an emotional space. In the emotional space, he's not educated in. So literally, he's losing his mind because now you occupy his heart.
I saw your video. I think I shared it yesterday about you were drowning. Like I don't know how to love, but you got me out here in the
Yeah,
middle of the ocean, and I
yeah,
told you I can't swim,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
here drowning.
Yeah.
So
That
that's what
video,
you're saying, yeah.
that video is older. That's definitely like where I
Yeah, I just
was.
posted it yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like the mental capacity, the builder, the warrior, the provider, and now when you start to operate that heart space, it's so powerful. So because it will consume you as a man. It will consume you. Like when you really, really connect to someone, when you really, really love someone, like if you get lost in that space, a man will let his whole empire crumble. So it is a
Yeah,
balance. It is a balance
yeah.
that even the woman that you love, right? She has to understand and motivate your purpose. Like you have to understand that that is important to him, you know. And a lot of women become a distraction because they get jealous of the purpose. And oh, you always out and
Wow,
you,
that is so deep.
yeah,
That is so deep.
yeah.
That's so deep.
That's why mailmen and garbage men sleep with millionaires' wives
Mm,
because the millionaire
mm,
got money but he don't got time.
yeah,
The garbage man got time but he don't got
yeah,
money. But you know when a woman needs to be talked to and understood, it's like okay, now the time becomes the wealth.
yeah,
You know, he understands me. He gets me. I could express myself to him. The millionaire is busy. He's running around. He's working. He's never there. You know,
yeah.
so it's like,
That's a very important topic. I feel like that's another topic for another day, but it's a very important topic because
mm,
that shows up in reality in
yeah,
relationships in marriages.
yeah.
We have jealousy even creeping in there, and is pretty interesting,
Even
right?
with the kids, like some fathers, like man, okay, I may not be able to spend this time with them, but I'm gonna sacrifice what I need to sacrifice to provide for them and to make sure they have the future and the life that they need. And sometime you know you want to remove that struggle in that fight. So it's a lot of kids that's like man my dad wasn't there or but he provided for you. And the balance is perspective. You know, it's perspective of okay, you have a kid that okay, yeah, they got the car, they got the house, but now they grow up without this love, and now they're in the world searching for this love, and then that's how everything else happened: drugs, early pregnancies, because your daughter that you wasn't there protecting, giving her the knowledge, Yes, you got her financially stable, you got her in the best school, but she lacked the substance, she lacked the information, she lacked the nurturing, she lacked your presence. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I say, it's all perspective and even how we equate wealth. Is wealth the finances, or is wealth the time and dedication?
Mm.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even with child support, like child support only talk about money, but imagine if child support was time. Can you imagine? Like,
Yeah.
like you ain't spend enough time. Like imagine if child
Yeah.
support was time. They wouldn't.
Exactly.
That's where we would have, like, the whole system will be backwards if a man could pay with his time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would definitely push us into this topic, the other side of masculinity. It would definitely, I would assume, not a man, but I would assume that it would help men grow,
Mm,
do that work if it
mm.
was time, right? What would you say? It would kind of, it would be rough, but it would push,
See,
everything happens and you
no,
look at the grander reason,
it
you
will.
know?
See, the reason why it won't work, because it will work. You know, it will make better families. It will not
Yeah,
be no.
so
It
it
will
goes
not be.
against the
Yeah,
okay, I see what
it
you're
will not
saying.
be no child support system. So
Yes.
people who create systems, they bank on them working. So when you make it about money, people don't have money. We all, like, men would show up and give the time, but that's why they won't make it time, because now you'll actually be there for your kids. You'll actually educate them. You'll actually teach them. You'll actually break the system.
Hmm.
You know, and
Yeah.
I always say, like people that profit. I forgot what I said. I made this quote up in Toronto. Man, I forgot it, but it's like people that profit off of your. And I said it another way with my son, but that's not the way I want to say it. But it's like somebody that profit, they won't educate you enough to, like, bankrupt their system. So I need you dumb enough to depend. I
Yeah.
need you smart enough to make money, but I need you dumb enough to only pay me,
Mm.
or need me. So I would never educate you enough to not be my consumer.
Yeah. Of
You know?
course. Welcome to
Yeah,
America.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what you're saying as far as in work and overworking, you're saying it seems like, would you say there's a time where a man needs to be all masculine? Because it seems like that's kind of needed sometimes, as far, especially like in work, the overworking. Is that important because you have to take care of your family, or are you still saying that, don't overwork? You need to find a balance within yourself and not overwork yourself because of
See,
what society said it should look like.
it's not a broad paintbrush, because sometimes, especially in this generation, like, work could be technology. Work could be me sitting on my phone. Work could be me logging into a device. Work in the sense of, okay, I got to go to a warehouse. I got to go. So work could be so many different things. Work could be like me, like, literally me and my son traveled the world. He was speaking, like, so even me now, I'm working and I'm creating books. So work could be purpose driven.
Mm-hmm.
I think work is dangerous when it becomes the outlet. Work is dangerous when it becomes the distraction
Okay.
of the
Okay.
argument.
So that's
Like,
where the overworking can come, because
yeah,
some people overwork because they don't want to think about
yeah,
the things that are
yeah.
living rent free in their heads.
That's where
So
it's dangerous. Where when you
yeah.
use it
Okay.
as a coping mechanism. So I don't want to
Okay.
argue. So I'm about to work this 24-hour shift. I don't feel like going back home, so I'm gonna work. I don't feel
Yeah.
like dealing with my silence. A lot of people are running from their
Yeah.
silence. So
Exactly. The stuff in their head.
yeah,
Yeah.
even when they're not working, they're watching Netflix. They're on the phone. They're strolling. They're
And
occupied,
you said
and
running. Yeah.
yeah.
Running.
So that's where it becomes dangerous, because
Okay.
staying busy, you could stunt your growth. And sometimes you need to sit
Mm-hmm.
still. You need to sit still to heal. It's the same thing, like even your own body, right? So I'm not sure if, like, they use this terminology in Nigeria, but excuse my language, right? Have you ever heard of niggeritis?
Yeah. Well, here, not in Nigeria.
Okay, so that's meaning, like, you ate so much food where you get sleepy,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the breakdown of your body is making you go to sleep, because it can't keep you up and break the food down at the same time, right? So your own body will sit you down to digest food, right? So in life, you need to sit down to digest and process your childhood. You need to sit down and digest and process your relationship. And that's why I say healing is. Healing is allowing your mind to catch up with your heart, right? Sometimes we feel feelings that we don't want to feel, and then we have thoughts that trigger those feelings, and then we run from those thoughts and those feelings. So we never allow ourselves to heal because we don't process the feelings. We don't process the emotions. And then when you create those distractions and you create those coping mechanisms, you're stunning your growth because
Yes.
that healing is going to show up when you need it, right? So if you never learn how to love, like how can you effectively love your children? How can you effectively love your husband, your wife? And then now you're going to have anger issues with other people that trigger that part of you. And now you're going to be like, oh, I hate this person. But you only hate that person because they're a mirror of your trigger, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. So
I was
let's
just like,
talk
oh,
about,
got
huh?
notes over there. Now I'm just laughing at your notes and stuff.
Yeah, I have my notes. So, how do men come to a balance of both their stronger and their softer sides? Now, before you answer that question, why is it important that, I mean, it's not like we I'm sure even by this few minutes of talking, we could gather what the dangers are of just being on one side, but
Mhm.
just articulate that for us. Why is it important that a man is watching this and he's thinking, why should I attend or pay attention to the other side of my strength? Why should I worry about my creative side? Why should I worry about my heart, things of my heart? You know, why should I care about my passion? Why is it important for a male watching this to come in balance with both aspects of themselves? Why is it even important?
Um, because when your daughter speak, you want to be able to feel her and not only hear her. Same thing as daughter, wife, right? So it's a quote that we all repeat and we say, like as parents, sometimes, oh, this generation is soft and this generation is right. And let's break down that thought. That thought is saying because I've been through this level of pain or because I've been through this level of being uncomfortable, you should be able to process it, feel it, and understand it the same way, right? And the thing about, like I said, when I was emotionless, I could not process emotions. I didn't have empathy and I didn't have compassion because I was just hard. So of course I could hear words, but until you have an experience or until you can have that empathy, like if you lost a loved one and someone else loses a loved one, you know how that feels,
Mm.
you know. And that's the thing, like sometimes my son go play basketball in his Crocs, right? And every day I'm like, put your sneakers on, right? Because I know how it feels to break your ankle. He don't. So he don't have like the cognitive like awareness, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to speak that into him, right? But the one thing about like when you educate yourself and you allow yourself to feel and you're not just living life based on your experiences. So like I said, I grew up with all my trauma, my pain. I grew up with a lot of my friends dying. Like I was a brick wall of emotions, right? So how could I have a healthy relationship? How could I hear the feelings of someone telling me how they feel if I don't know what feelings mean, if I don't
Yeah.
know how to process feelings and emotions? So it's so important to allow yourself to sit with yourself and to think about how things affected you, to communicate things that you feel uncomfortable with and watch how your body reacts. You know, watch how you feel, watch your energy, you know. And just because you lived through something and just because you survived something don't mean that it was healthy for you, don't mean that it was beneficial. So sometimes you have to be willing to go inside and relive survival mode to say that was not healthy for me. That wasn't the best situation that I should have been in. You know, I should not ever have endured that, right? Because when we endure and we live and we survive survival mode.
Somebody saying save this live. I will definitely save this live on my page. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll put it up as well. But like I said, when you survive survival mode, sometimes you lose the fact that it's like you just went through like a horrible car crash, and it's like that could do two things. Like, wow, I really made it, or it make you feel like, man, ain't nothing could happen to me, right? And now, like, you have to have that expectation that, well, you have to have the understanding that that was a blessing, right? And not put those harsh realities on people you love and think people should be able to endure that same pain. Oh, you're just weak. You're just soft. You're just complaining, right? If you just think your wife is complaining, if you just think she's just nagging, no, she's telling you how she feels. You just can't process it because you're trying to equate it to what you have endured. But if you have endured horrendous things, that is extreme, right? And you have to heal from enduring those extreme things, right? People will tell you the most horrible thing. Oh, I was molested as a kid. I was in crazy. And you talking about school and a bully? No, like the bully, the pain that your children is going through and equating could be as severe to them emotionally. And you still have to process that. Just because one person have a root canal and person have a cavity, it don't mean that both of them don't need Novocaine.
Exactly.
You just got a root canal. Why you need Novocaine? Because their pain hurts too.
Yeah. It's their perception. I mean, I can't, my pain is just as real and painful and probably the worst thing I've ever felt, even if it's minute to you, but that's my reality,
Yeah.
right?
And that's what we do though. Like we and that's what it is. Like when you have to process what you've been through, right? And when you process it, it gives you empathy. Like empathy
Yeah.
and compassion is everything. Because
Yeah.
like, you know, pain is pain.
Trauma
Pain
is
is
trauma. Someone
yeah,
just said trauma is trauma. Yeah.
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 And you have to respect that there's no levels. It's not, oh, but I almost died, and oh, like people try to out trauma you. you know, you know what I'm saying? Oh, you almost got shot. Oh, well, I almost got shot, ran over, and struck by lightning. Like, you know what I'm saying? Respect what the
Oh
next person went
goodness.
through, man. Respect the next person's
Yeah.
process and love them from that space. Honor them from that space. Their space, their world is not your world. But it
Yeah.
don't mean that they don't need a hug. It don't mean that they don't need to be cared for, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So some things that I put down here as far as reasons why it's important to come to balance with that is, I mean, even now, I don't know what the statistic as far as the numbers, but more men are committing suicide than
Mm-hmm.
women.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very passionate about our males. That's another reason why I decided to have this podcast. I mean, this live talk with you. And the topic is just I'm being called to talk about this and to bring that because I mean we're living in a world where this is happening. Men are in pain,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think that it's time for, like you said, women, we are the manufacturers. We need to talk about this. It's our responsibility too, just as much as is the man's responsibility. We are the mothers. I don't have any kids, but I'm a mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's who
Definitely.
I'm, that's my genetic makeup,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it's important that we also talk about this because to show support and to show care. And you are you, but you are me too, and I
Mm-hmm.
am you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's no difference. Whatever is the elements that are made within you are the same that are made within me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're just showing up here in different spaces, but it affects me
Mm-hmm.
that men are dying.
Mm-hmm.
It affects me. You know, so that's one thing that I wrote down as far as why it's important to have this conversation and why it's important for a man to um, to pay attention to the other side of themselves, which is the softer side.
Mm-hmm.
It's time. We're seeing that the other side isn't working too well,
Mm-hmm.
as we can see. It's just being on one side is not working too well. So that's what I had here, have down here is the suicide crisis. Um, you talked about passing the knowledge on to your sons. This, if you work on both sides of yourself, you have
Mm-hmm.
more to pass on to your daughters, to your sons. You're more
Mm-hmm.
balanced. You can raise healthier children. You can show up in a workplace from a healthy space. You can show up in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with understanding, coming to the 10th floor and not just staying on the 15th and the fifth floor and looking at different looking at it from different perspectives. Also, you feel more peace and happiness. Who doesn't want that? You know. So, to
Definitely.
me, that is offering support for men. Yes, definitely. So that's one of the some of the things I wrote down as far as why is it important, because in a society we live in, it seems like men are more interested in the practical things, their work, their legacy they're creating, their status in society, the amount of money in their bank account. So this topic may not be so interesting, for lack of a better word, for a lot of men, because we're raised in a society, again, from programming, it goes back to that, on what it should look like, you know. So yeah, I'm glad that we can both highlight the importance of why it's time for men to step into the other side of themselves, because it'll save your life, brother.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
It'll save your life. Okay, so now how can men come into balance with that side? Like, share some tips. Maybe you can share a little bit of your story. I know your son was very pivotal in your transformation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you looked into his eyes, he looked into your eyes, and I saw the video that you posted, and that was so touching. And to me, that is what the other side of a man, or the
Mm-hmm.
other side of masculinity, looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not something to be looked at as something weird. Like, as a man, if I was a man, why wouldn't I want to show that love to my son?
Mm-hmm.
That's just natural. So I think, in essence, where society has removed the natural parts of the natural essence of a man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a natural essence of a man is not just masculine, it's feminine and masculine in balance. That
Mm-hmm.
is the natural essence of what a man is. Natural essence of a woman is the same thing, feminine and masculine in balance. That is the natural. So I think that we've been programmed, we've
Definitely.
been brainwashed, you know. Even for women, we're expecting our men to show up a certain way. Who told us that? Who told us that it's not okay for my man to cry on my bosoms? I want you to cry on my bosoms. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand. You know, we're dying as a people because we don't allow our men to cry in front of us, or we feel
Mm-hmm.
like he's weak if he expresses emotions or becomes vulnerable. So, what are some tips you can share with us on a men who are listening right now who say, hey, you know, I want to know how to tap into the softer sides of myself, to help me heal some things within me, to help me love others better, to help me be a better father, be a better son to my parents, all of those things. What could you share with us?
Okay. Before I answer that, I just want to go into like what you just said, right? So even when you look at social media and you look at like the most popular conversations, right? Because I just made a video. I didn't put it up, but I'm gonna put it up. And I was talking about, and I introed it by saying like you can't NFT, Bitcoin, social media influencer, real estate your way out of mental health, right? So sometimes like we wanna just jump over like I don't care how much money you have, right? And I got friends, I know people in entertainment, right? If you can't balance your mental and emotional space without money, you will never balance it with money, right? The money is not going to do the work for you. Yes, you do need money, but you have to get to the bottom of what you're going through and learn your world. And just like we see celebrities and people with money all over the place, and that's because the wealth of self is a whole nother level. Like you may be a great businessman, you may be a great entrepreneur, you may be a great social media influencer, but you know, if you don't fix that part of you, you're going to still struggle in those areas, and that might be your breakdown. That might be your downfall, because that wealth of self, you know, that because you know, even all of that stuff, the clothes, the money, all of the house, the car is not going to fix it. the
Yeah, I
new
mean, we have
relationship.
billionaires committing suicide,
Yeah,
so go figure.
yeah. So even that, like, so even what we're doing, right? So even with me, I can't tell you how many people, and even with my platform, like women are more open, and you guys communicate to me in live in the comments, but a lot of men do reach out to me, and what it is like even me, like I've been on TikTok August. Well, I think today oh, tomorrow, August 8th will be a year since I've been on TikTok, right? And I almost did like 300,000 people, even here. Like I was consistent around the same time. And even though I do have a lot of women followers, I think that the newness of, wow, like, okay, he's not scared, and oh, okay, he's not afraid, and
Yeah.
so many men reach out to me, right? And because we're not creating the olive branch of these conversations, we're not having these conversations, we're not speaking on them, we're not creating them and making sure this content looks as powerful and
Yeah.
glittery and as special. And then it's like in every lane, like you need a Michael Jordan of that lane, right?
Mm.
So it is a couple men popping up, but it's like you need a representation of like, oh, he's the mental health, or he's like, it's like we need that to sound like, when we say Michael Jordan or LeBron, like, oh, you have an identifier of the person in that space.
Mm.
When you say, depending on, like you say, if you talk about black, or you talk about all races, like you got an Elon Musk of technology, you got a Steve Jobs of technology, right? So, but when you think of mental health, it's like you need that Jordan logo man, you know, to create that world, to create those conversations. I always say life is a language and conversations control your destiny.
Mm.
Some men never spoke their truth out loud. Some men only know how to be the character of who they are. So even how we intro this, I ain't say, oh, well, like I ain't go into a whole character breakdown. I say, man, I'm still growing. I'm still figuring it out. I could have said, entrepreneur, been all around the world, Africa, Mexico, Dubai, my son was in four. I could have said all of these things I did and accomplished. I worked in director and did this. No, I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still an infant. I'm still
Feel
an
like you're
infant.
in that statement, you're the representation of the other side.
Yeah.
Highlighting
Yeah.
that you have the masculine side, like you just said. I can name
Yeah.
all my accolades; those things are there. They're not void of me. But
Yeah.
I chose to say this, so that's honoring both sides. That's you representing the other side of what the topic of the show, the other
Yeah.
side of
And,
masculinity.
and, and it's not
You're
even
the blueprint,
it's not
the
it's not
blueprint for the other side.
it's not even conscious. Like, let me, like that's
No, you're
literally
being you. You're
That's
on your
literally what
purpose.
I say. That's literally what I say because, and like all of these levels of me, like my background is in directing. I did work with a lot of artists. I work with a lot of political figures. I was in that space, right? So even working with my son, I had some success in all of these fields. But in this space, and even like how I built what I built here. I didn't use my son platform with he got like 300,000 people. Like I built this conversation. I want to build these conversations. I want to, when we create these conversations and we create these dialogues, I literally watch, and that's the beauty of technology now. Like that's how I utilize my voice. I'm like, what don't a man know how to say? What didn't I know how to say when I was 20? What didn't I know how to say when I was 25? Let me say this. I want to love the generational curses out of you. Like
Yeah.
I want to create these words that a man go, oh, that's how you say that, right? So and that's where I would start to answer your question. Start to open up and have the conversations that you feel uncomfortable with. Allow yourself to feel the feelings that you feel uncomfortable with, right? So a lot of times we say we're a product of our environment, not understanding that our environment is a product. Someone created your environment. So your environment is limited. So if you're saying you're a product of your environment, you're limited. So I need you to go outside of your environment, your mental environment, your emotional environment, and go outside of even your parents' knowledge. If your father was cold and hard and he raised you tough and he raised you with this concept of men don't cry, we don't feel, I need you to go outside of your father's concept. Was your father happy? Was your mother happy? Right? If your mother was always crying, miserable, broken, right? How could you be in a relationship like loving your wife with the same perspective that your father had when your mother was in pain. Like if your father always hit you, abused you, yell, how could you parent your children with the same concept and perspective that your father taught you if you was always in pain? So don't be afraid to go inside yourself and grow a new you. Learn a new you. Have the
Okay.
conversations. If all you got is friends, y'all go to the club, y'all go to the strip club, and you don't have the space to feel comfortable with them, then you need a new category of friends. Like,
That's actually what I was going into next. So I'm a man and I'm thinking, first of all, before I seek healing, how do I know as a man that something is wrong? Before we, that's the inception, because maybe someone is watching this and like, okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but how do I even know there's something wrong with me? Or how do I know that I'm not balanced? How do I know that I'm not balanced?
if you're empty,
Okay, so
right?
I would feel a feeling of emptiness.
Yeah, if you're empty,
Okay.
right? If you're
Okay.
doing something over and over and over and over again, and you still feel empty,
Okay.
you still don't feel happy, you still feel like you're missing something, and you're tired of the hamster wheel lifestyle of just doing things to do them. If you got to get drunk, if you got to get high, if you got to like, if you got to, if you got to leave yourself to enjoy yourself, then you're running from self.
Escaping. Okay.
Yeah. Like if you got to do
Okay.
the things that you say you like doing, but you got to not be you to do it,
Okay.
right? So it's an emptiness, or it's a feeling that it's more, right? Don't be afraid to go into it's more, and don't be afraid to follow that inner conversation to say it's more. That's one thing that I felt. It's more. So when it came to like my son, when it came to his creativity, when it came to his world, I never stopped it. I never told him sit down. Even he asked me. I showed him videos from when he was 4 and 3. He's like, "Why you record this?" I'm like, "Man, I just let you do you. I just let you be." Like when we put logic on freedom, we want to understand it. Sometimes greatness and freedom can't be comprehended. So even with my son was just and just doing stuff. But it's like, okay, I would look at his eyes. His eyes was always locked in and focused. So I'm like, he doing something.
Mm.
He doing something. He's saying something. Okay, he write on the wall. Hey, stop writing on the wall. Go write on the refrigerator, because we could erase it. So I just let him be. I let him explore. I let him find himself, and that
Yeah.
turned into confidence. Right?
Yeah.
Confidence is an energy. It's an energy of an expression. If you tell your children, sit down, shut up, sit down, be quiet, stop doing this, stop doing that, right? You're going to create an inner no. Right? You're going to say no to them so much, it's going to be programmed to whenever they try to do something, no. Right? And then we still have that. We have that as adults. I'm going to do, no, I can't do that. Why would I try that? I know, right? And we're still programmed from that inner no. So as a man growing, learning, like you have to challenge, where did you learn how to be a man from? Where did you learn how to love from? Where did you learn how to not have emotions? If you say, "Oh, I don't," like I heard Shaq just did a video. He said, "I don't got emotions," and right, that's death. Like, and maybe that's okay for Shaq, And that's one thing I said. Like, I'm not here to fight anyone's reality. If that works for you, then that works for him, right? But if you're in a space where you feel alone, where you feel empty, where you feel like you're missing something, whatever that feeling is, whatever that emotion is, follow the freedom, follow the information that makes you feel like this is it, this is something right here, right? And whether that's conversation, whether that's people, that's how I create my content. Like if it don't make me I feel that, like, and I know if I give that feeling to the world, it hits somebody the same way, because
Mm.
I felt it,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
I go
Speaking to the
off of,
soul.
yeah, I go off of that energy. Oh, it hit me. You know what I'm saying? And then
Mhm.
as I give that, it is a conversation. It's an inner conversation that I can't fake, because
I see.
I felt it.
That's powerful. What I'm hearing is like, don't run from uncomfortability.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That,
the
that
first.
That's a
Yeah.
conversation. That is a
Yeah.
conversation. When you feel that, that is a conversation. You just
Mm-hmm.
have to get to the bottom of it. You have to say, what is that?
Okay.
Why is that?
Okay. So the first step is the feeling. Again, I'm trying to be strategic
Okay.
because the
So
whole
yeah,
essence of,
layman's. Okay. So layman's.
yeah, and I want to take it because the main point of this Divine Talks, the talk show, is about healing, growth,
Mm,
transformations. People who are interested in trying to get to a better versions of themselves. So I'm very I try to highlight when it comes to like tips and healing tips and how
mm,
the process. I try to highlight and make sure that people are hearing that because some people need this, you know. So the first step is, okay, I'm going to feel a sense of emptiness. That's
mm,
the first sign, like someone
mm.
who's asking, how do I know I'm not balanced?
Yeah.
So the first sign
And
is
look,
feeling
not,
empty.
not not to cut you off too, but
Yeah.
emptiness could be also like a overflood of something, right? So it could be a man and you got 20 women. That's an emptiness as well. Because why do you need 20? Right? You got 20 because you're trying to get pieces of them of what
Mm-hmm.
you can't or not willing and patient enough to find in one.
Mm.
So you want so many, to be able to be a temporary in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. So it's like same thing as nutrition, like, or it's the same thing. Like we look at people like you could see a person that's overweight and then you could see a person that's slim, but based on the person's process in their body, like the skinny person could be starving, so they eat a lot, right? So I'm trying to put this into its most basic representation, right? Because when I say empty, people may sometimes feel like, okay, I don't have something, right? But
Mm.
but emptiness could also show up as something that you're doing too much as well,
Mm. I love that.
you know.
Yeah, I love that.
And it could show up in those distractions, and you're distracting yourself because you don't
Yeah.
know how to find.
Literally, if you're
Yeah,
eating too much sugar, literally, if you're eating too much candy every day as a grown adult, that is emptiness because
yeah.
that's sugar. So I like how you put that. That just came through. I don't know where that came from, but
even
that's what
even
I'm saying.
drugs, like even
Everything.
drugs,
Yeah,
like
even
drugs,
drugs,
the
even sugar,
chemical.
like that's an addiction.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's some people that candy it every few minutes. So now when you said that, I'm like, huh, that's actually a void. They're trying to feel something. The sugar makes them feel a
yeah,
rush of maybe something that they're chasing, but they
yeah,
keep eating it because they're not getting satisfied.
yeah,
So to me, I'm hearing that as an emptiness too.
yeah,
What would you say?
yeah. No, and that's it. It's like,
And I don't know where that analogy came from with candy, but that, I
yeah.
mean,
And
that's
that's
an
why I
addiction.
like, because even as you was communicated, I wanted, and that's like I could tell you that as a man, like the like the more empty I was, like, after my son mother, like, and that's the thing, like sometimes a man could like, okay, I want to focus, I want to open up, and then you're like faithful, and then let's say a man get hurt. Now it's like from that hurt, let's say his girl cheated. Now out of that hurt, he like, okay, I'm gonna just sleep with 100 women. I don't care about them now, right? That void of that hurt turned into like lack of compassion, lack of like love, because you don't know how to. You wanted to obtain something. You put your heart out there, and because your heart was broken, that turned into like you creating more brokenness, and you're pushing it out through the neglect that you feel for yourself, and
Gotcha.
now you're,
Still
yeah,
emptiness, yeah?
yeah, definitely.
Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you.
No,
I
no,
just wanted to
that
follow.
was
That's
it. That was my full point. Yeah,
okay. That's amazing. Okay, so that's, I guess you just gave us what the different lenses of
yeah,
emptiness because it
yeah,
doesn't just mean one thing.
yeah. Because some people
Okay.
could think like, okay, I don't have, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
emptiness could be, you always got to go out.
Yeah.
You always in the club. You always, what are you partying from? What,
Hmm.
why are you consistently running your mind? What are you running from? you know so somebody could have the busiest life in the world and be empty and be void, but they're filling the void. But if you put soda in the gas tank, yes, it's full, but that's not what's supposed to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's a lot of
Yeah.
people that it's a lot
Yeah.
of people that's moving and they have motion and they have relationships, but it's not the one that's going to feed you
Okay.
if it's not feeding you.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So replacement. Okay. So we
Yeah.
have the first step is you feel a sense I'm the man. I'm using myself as a man. So for me to know if I am off balance or if I'm too much on my stronger masculine ego side and I need to find balance with my softer feminine side, I will feel a sense of emptiness. And we've talked about what empty looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next step you said was to follow up on the info. So maybe when you feel or hear something that's uncomfortable, that's triggering, the
Mm-hmm.
word we use, triggering, we should follow up on that. Would that be the next step that
Yeah.
you would say?
Also a list because I always equate triggers to a check engine light, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we look at the triggers and we run away from the triggers and we don't want to be triggered to the pain, right? But the trigger is just a
That's me.
communication.
I don't check the check engine light till a couple months later. Yeah,
Yeah, see.
I just leave it there.
But look, so the trigger is a communication of the root, right? So if I suffer from abandonment issues, which I did, I suffered from abandonment issues, and that triggered the simplest thing would trigger me. If I send you a message, you ain't send me a message back. Forget you, right? But that it triggered the fact that my mother gave me up. My mother didn't want me. My mother didn't love me. I could be in the supermarket. Hey, excuse me, do you guys got the laptop? Oh, the laptop's over there. If a person ain't give me eye contact communication, it would make me feel like nothing.
Small.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but those were check engine lights. That
Yeah,
was not. I'm not mad at the lady in Walmart.
yeah,
I'm not mad at the person that didn't text me.
yeah.
It's connecting to that inner child,
Your trauma.
connecting back to my mother, right? So just like the check engine light, you could ignore it, okay, but the check engine light is not the problem. So allowing yourself to sit and go, okay, what is that? And then
Yes.
you learn the check engine light is a coil. The check engine
Yeah.
light is your transmission. And then
Yes.
now, instead of running from the check engine light, because now when you start to ignore it, first it was one thing. And that's how it works properly. Like when your check engine light first go off and it's just the transmission, if you fix that, then it go back off. But now if it's the transmission, if it's the engine, if it's the look, I ain't no mechanic, right? So
The
I,
carburetor. I don't
I
know.
ran out of things I knew. If it's the carburetor,
The alternator.
if it's the alternator, if it's the starter, right? All the things that's going off, and because you ignoring it, now you don't even know what's bothering you. First, it was your childhood trauma. Then, it was molestation, it was abuse, and then now it's your adulthood, it's your job, it's your relationship. But because you're ignoring all of your feelings, you don't know what area of your life you need to heal, you need to fix, you need to correct, and you need to isolate, right? So that is the process. And I also equate it to this as well, right? So let's say you turn your phone off today, August 7th, 2022. You turn your phone off and you don't turn it back on to next year, right? So next year you turn your phone on, you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to have text messages. You're going to have messages from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, phone calls. And you turn the phone on, you're going to be overwhelmed because you don't even know where to start, right? So healing is allowing yourself to start. What is this message? What is this message? You got to start when you
To
sit
take it in
still.
steps.
Yeah, when you sit still and that first signal, that first thought that pop up in your head that registers to that feeling, wow, so my mother did do this to me. Or like, because when you ignoring, you don't know what message is connected to what message, right? So when it comes to triggers, when it comes to messages, when it comes to your inner self, right? So just like we turn the phone off, we turn our imagination off, we turn our creativity off, we turn our heart off, we turn our soul off. And you have all these communications going on inside of your mind and your heart. And that is the anxiety. That is the depression, the decompress. It's all that pressure from your mind, from your heart that you're not dealing with,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah. Powerful. Powerful. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. That was really
No
really
problem.
it's hitting it's hitting the souls. That's what I
Yeah.
can sense. It's really hitting the souls. Okay, so what will be the next step after we've identified our triggers? So I feel a sense of emptiness or addiction, and then I realize, okay, something is going on with me, I need to address. Then I realize that I have certain triggers by either hearing things or having a thought that takes me to a certain place and it doesn't feel good. But so not running, not escaping from those heartbreaking situations, or information, whatever. Sitting there in that pain is the next step. And then after we're addressing our triggers, what will be the next step for me to start stepping into my more feminine side as a man?
Okay. So let's go back to the car analogy. Once
Okay.
we go to AutoZone or wherever we go, and once we find the diagnostics, once we know it's the transmission, now we have to find out the solution. Do we have the money for the parts and the pieces? But okay, let's equate it back to life. Okay. Once you acknowledge that you have abandonment issues, once you acknowledge that you finally deal with, okay, I was molested and now I want to stop running from it, right? So once you go from ignoring to isolation, to feelings, emotions, to interpreting the feelings and emotions, to identifying a problem. Now, once you identify the problem, now you fall in love with the solution, right? So it's a quote that says, "When you heal, you respond differently, you communicate differently," right? So now it's allowing yourself to fall in love with the solution and understand that it may take time, it may even hurt. But just like when you go to the gym, if I tell you to do 20 push-ups, just because the 20 push-ups hurt, it don't mean you stop there, right? So when you're working on your physical body, I need you to keep doing 20 because your muscles are gonna break down and it's gonna become immune to the workout. And then now you're gonna go from 20 to 40. So the more you work and the more work you do, you're gonna learn how to balance out what you call pain. And with understanding pain, it will teach you how to extract the information, because it will be a lesson, and it will be understanding in the things you've been through. So now this is finding the solution. So whether the solution is therapy, psychotherapy, talk therapy, whether the solution is finding the information. So if you got anger issues and you just don't understand anger, and you're like, man, I'm just upset, I hate this, I hate that, and you just look at yourself as a bad person, but you don't understand that you have mood swings, and within mood swings, it's about understanding your mind, understanding neurological pathways, understanding the amygdala, right? The amygdala is the part of the brain that's responsible for reaction, right? So if you're always reacting and not responding, then you can't feel guilty or bad for something you can't control. But now that you identify and you get the wisdom and knowledge around the information, wow, this is my amygdala. Now I know why I'm going in fight or flight. Now I know why I can't control myself. So now it's about you monitoring yourself, right? So before you get angry, what's taking place? Okay, I feel my heart start beating. I feel my fingers start shaking, right? So even if you're in a relationship with somebody, I want you to start watching him. Start looking in his eyes. When you see his eyes, when you see him start to get triggered, you have to be conscious enough to either touch his hand, make him feel comfortable, right? So that's if you're in a relationship with someone with anger issues. But if you're the problem, that your miscommunications or anger or whatever the issues are, anger, addiction, depression, anxiety, you have to learn your world. You have to do the research. You have to study. So now, where you break down because you don't know, you have the knowledge and wisdom to handle your situation.
Okay. So in that space, it's a lot of self-monitoring going
Yes.
on, like being in the state of the observer. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So observe your own self
Yeah,
and your own state.
everything. Yeah,
Okay.
because if anybody, like, before you get angry, like I said, it's literally, even in anger, like anger, when you're angry, the oxygen stops flowing to your frontal cortex, right? So you're literally in a dying state, right? So that's why when you're angry, people tell you to breathe and calm down, breathe, right? So that was big for me. So even this ring, I always tell people, right? This ring means don't be a slave to your emotions, right?
Mm.
So that was another thing that I do, and I help a lot of my clients do. Like you need something that's a
Yeah,
symbol
symbol,
for
like
your
a
growth.
physical symbol.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this
I like
helped
that.
me.
That's a great tip. That's a
Yeah.
great tip for
So
for for,
it
for
could be a
someone.
bracelet, it could be a ring, it could be anything, but you need something. This was my lifeline. Like, but I really don't even need it no more, but I still
Yeah.
wear it. So it's not just like something I got on. So for everybody in here that know this special part about me, right? This ring is, it literally means that, right? And what it does, it's a technique that even the biggest companies in the world do, right? So even if you're on a road and your kid's like, Mom, we're hungry, we want McDonald's. You don't know they just seen a yellow M on the highway, right? So the yellow M triggered the song, ba da ba ba ba.
Yeah.
The song triggered the taste, and now the kids are talking about we want McDonald's, right? So when it comes to you and your healing, you need symbols, you need conversations to help you. Like you could create a mantra, right? So that's why this is literally a mantra. Don't be a slave to your emotions. So when I see things, when I feel things, I'm just always tapped back into my calm self. So
Mm.
with being calm, it turns me back into a thinking. It don't make me react. I can respond. Someone is bugging out, cursing, yelling. I can respond. Hey, I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. I'm not feeding into someone's lower self, right? So it's the inner work, right? Because a lot of times we're reacting because we don't have the information, and a lot of times we're arguing because we don't know how to be calm and go back to the conversation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we're in defense mode because we don't feel safe. So
Yeah.
in communication and in growth, it's important to have safety. If you feel safe with me, you, you know that's how we converse. Conversing happens when we feel safe. Conversing, you tell me about when you were a kid, right? And you don't feel the need to like talk fast and hurry up because you know I'm not going to cut you off. I'm going to let you explain yourself. I'm going to let you feel comfortable in your full thought. I'm going to let you feel happy in your freedom. So that's conversing. It's the same thing as intimacy. Some people have sex, but they're not intimate.
Yeah.
Intimacy is you feel safe. You let go. You know, your body is free,
Yeah. Your
right?
body and your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is in all those communications, even within yourself. A lot of people don't even let their own mind, they're not even intimate within themselves. They're not
Yeah.
even
And
free within themselves. Yeah.
that's what I was gonna ask. What are some what is a safe space for a man to go to? Would you say, because do men like with your group of friends, do men have a safe space for each other? Where can they go and vent? Do they have to journal? Do they have to go see a therapist? Can they talk to their homeboys and homegirls? And if they can't talk to themselves, like what is the safety? Is there safe spaces for men
Well,
within the man community, like their peers?
see, look, you have to look at men like cars, right? So you got a Bentley, you got a Ferrari, you got a Cadillac, you got a Honda, you got a Toyota, right? We say men, but the substance of a man is that man's background, that man's education, that man's understanding. So for me and my friend group and my peer group, because I choose friends from my reality. But back in the day, I choose friends because we had cool sneakers, like you know what I'm saying, or we get
Standards
girl.
in society.
Yeah, we get girls together, like, or we party together. I picked friends based on my reality, right? So now my reality is different. My reality is in tune. My reality is aware. My reality is love. My reality is a father, right? So I need me around me. You know what I'm saying? I still got friends from my past, or whatever the case, and you know those conversations are interesting. But based on that man's reality, based on his world, his friends are going to represent his world. So a Toyota is not a Bentley. You know what I'm saying? A Bentley is not a Tesla. So all men is not like this one man companion. It's a certain category of men that could come in this room like, what is this dude talking about? I don't do that, right? But he could be into the concept of I don't talk about my feelings, emotions. I'm tough. I'm gangster, or whatever the case, and that is his concept and perspective of what a man is, right?
Yeah.
So healed, whole, communicative. emotionally connected, emotionally vulnerable men have a safe space, have communication, have open dialogue. Same thing with me and my son. Me and my son talk about everything, right? And it's been his whole life. So my son don't have a fear. He don't have anxiety. He don't have my dad gonna punch me in the face. Like, no, I could come to my dad and I could talk to him about anything. So he has that. When I say conversing, my son is not afraid to converse with me. He's not afraid to tell me his world. He's not embarrassed. You know, he knows I'm not going to judge him. So he's open to share everything with me. You know, so to talk about men, like I say, based on his reality and his world. And so I could give you based on my realities when I wasn't who I am now. Um, I tried to talk to women. I tried to talk to women, but it's always it's always tricky, especially back then, because like even that, even as a man, when you learn how to be a man, like now I interact with women without a motive. So back then, I never let my motive, like my agenda, was more important than me,
Mm, I understand.
right? So I never came out of my character for the agenda, you know,
Mm,
and my agenda was like only knew how to operate with women on a lust space. So if the way you viewed me, that's how I stayed. You know what I'm
okay.
saying? So this, like me now, I could interact with women, and I don't even like. I just look at you and value you for what you are. I don't even. I'm at the space. I see that as difficult for a lot of women. Like they don't like really. They
That's
don't
another
even.
subject, but I understand what you're
Like they
saying.
don't even know how to function. Like you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah,
but it's like
yeah.
It's
And
like
that's the trauma within the feminine as well, you
yeah,
know? That's the trauma within the feminine as well, not knowing what it looks like,
yeah,
not to come from that perspective.
yeah.
You know, that's another subject.
And that's what Russell Simmons said. Russell Simmons, his quote is needing nothing attracts everything.
Yeah,
So it's like
exactly.
if that was a game for me, but it's really not. But like I could really talk to a female, beautiful female, and also that takes time. It takes time to be able to engage with females, to be able to talk and communicate with females, and to just disconnect that high level energy that is always like tugging at like men,
Yeah.
women, and but I literally found that space, and it's beautiful to like communicate without an agenda, to be a woman's safe space. And even
Mm.
as I do sessions, like I say, I do so many sessions to where I can know about someone's wife in a snap of a finger more than he knows because she don't feel safe.
Mm.
You
That's
know,
powerful. Yeah, yeah,
and between men, women, children, and like I told you, that's the introduction of my vulnerability because people meet you at your conversation. Like I said, life is a language and conversations control your destiny. So when I get online and say, hey, I was molested, like I open up a
yeah,
vulnerability and someone
yeah,
say, man, I could be free to him. And I literally, you see my inbox, it's like, it's just all of that. Like, man, like you just make me, and
yeah.
they welcome me with that level of nakedness,
Yes,
you know.
very inspiring. Like I said, I didn't just run. I reached out to you because of exactly just that. I think
Mm.
what you do is very inspiring to men and women, and this shift that we're going to needs this, you know. So I know that you're right in alignment in your purpose as far as doing what you're doing. It's not by coincidence. So I thank you for what you do personally. Um, I think that you gave us a nice outline for men who are struggling with trying to get to the other side of themselves and live a more healthier and balanced life. Um, Before we go, I have a list of questions, just a few questions that
No
are for
problem.
you directly. But is there anything else? And I want to read some of the questions. I know people that are commenting. Is there any other tips you would like to give any man that's out there trying to figure it out, trying to get to the other side of themselves after they've monitored themselves and they're now introspecting and now reaching out to safe spaces to talk about these traumatic things that maybe they've gone through or um, yeah, to heal, you know.
Okay.
what is something else that you want to add to someone who's listening and wants to find some balance within themselves?
It's one thing I live by. Like once you start doing the work, and it's one thing that I just kept in my mind, right? And I always used to say, compete with your progress, right? So I remember when like I say, when my son mother got into a situation and I got custody, literally, like I didn't feel ready, and it's important to like don't be afraid to go inside yourself and edit. Don't be afraid to remove certain things about yourself. So even for me, like when I became a father, like I thought I was just going to be a horrible father based on the conversations that I heard about a father. So when it came to my mother, my environment, my friends, none of my friends have fathers. It was all just negative, 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 negative. So all of that triggered me when my son was young. Just even I seen his little feet print through the stomach, and it was like that just brought me so much anxiety to the point like I didn't even hold my son the first 2 months. Like I just was like, just coming to the realization like I'm really responsible for a life. I used to just peek at him like just through the room,
Wow.
like just so little, like, and I ain't feel worthy to hold him, and like he was just so
Wow.
little, and I'm like, and you know, so be patient, be patient. And you may not have the most supportive people around you. Don't let the words of your environment control your mind or your heart. Understand that you may be around friends and you may be around family members that don't understand your growth, but be the best you that you could be every day and document it. So when I say compete with your progress, document the best you, right? With the next 24 hours, say, I'm going to be the best me in every area. So whatever it is that you don't like about yourself or you don't like that you're doing, try to remove it. Remove it for one day. Remove it for 1 hour and compete with that you. So if you're not showing up for your son enough, right, make the phone call. Put your pride aside. Don't allow your pride to be the turtle shell, right? Because it's something I call turtle shell syndrome, right? Turtles are soft, the shell is hard. Whenever turtles don't feel safe, they tuck their head in the shell. Men, whenever we don't feel safe, we tuck our head in pride. We tuck our head in ego. We tuck our head in like self-absorbed and anger. But that is a defense mechanism. We don't feel safe. And for the most part, we misplace anger with sadness because sadness makes you open up. Like sadness make you go, why am I sad? But the minute we could just say I'm angry, I'm mad, we dismiss the sadness.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense. That's powerful.
yeah,
It's
like
powerful.
don't be. I also did a video the other day talking about the reason why a lot of fathers don't show up because they're still running from their father, right? And what I mean by that, they're running from the feelings and emotions and the trapped trauma that their father caused. So
Yeah.
because their father never showed up, because their father left abandonment issues and a burden on their mind and their heart, every time they try to love their children, it triggers them into dealing
Yeah.
with the thing that they're afraid to deal with. So
Yeah.
just that new man that you're going to become, the brave man you're going to become, you're going to break down, you're going to cry, you're going to be vulnerable, you're going to be in a dark space, but I want you to look at it as the caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly. The pain is transformation, the tears is transformation. It's all going to be a part of your growth. And the you that you've been praying for, the you that you've been hoping for, is going to come out on the other side of that pain. So what you're looking at is a physical representation. So for those of you who've been following me and watching my son is an ingredient of love. My son is an ingredient of tears. My son is an ingredient of someone overcoming their battles. And as I told you yesterday, literally 12 o'clock, found out that my father died, right? Let me show you a picture of my father.
Yeah.
And it is even crazy how I met my father. 'Cause I met my father at 36 years old. Well,
Okay.
really a couple years ago. Let me show you my
Yeah.
dad.
Wow. I love his beard.
Yeah, and this is literally his obituary, like on Google, right? So when I found my
Okay.
father, the first thing, the funny thing, I'm like, man, my dad got hair still. Like I'm good, like the stuff is
Yeah.
hereditary. I'm like, man, what happened to my
Yeah.
hair? But yeah. So like I said, so the
Hmm.
second thing So like I told y'all, even though my father wasn't there, he still wound up being an inspiration. He wound up being an inspiration because, the love that I never learned how to have, my tears, he is the
Yeah.
whole foundation of my life. He's the whole foundation of everything that I am today. So,
Yeah.
so like I said,
Yeah, they
literally,
usually say pain. Pain is the thing, sometimes it's pain that transforms us. You use it as a fuel
yeah,
to get to where you are today. And I
yeah.
think that it has to be like that
No,
sometimes.
even like you see everybody, this is not a loss. This is a blessing. This is a gain. So yes,
Yeah.
he's not here in the physical, but like my father's energy lived without him, and then I don't even know if he would have been in my life. But if we're talking about the ingredients of life, right? The ingredients of
Uh-huh.
life. Let me explain to you guys, right? So I'm
I put
telling
my number. I don't even know how I did that. How do you delete a message?
you, you gotta delete it. You gotta just delete it. So I know how that happened. That's the last thing that you paste, and
Okay.
and you thought you
My
thought
own cell phone
you
number.
thought you paste something, and then you gotta just delete it.
Like I promise, I did not type my number out. I did not do
Yeah,
that. I
nah,
don't
nah,
know
that's
where it came from.
okay.
All the smartphones, right? Anyway.
Look, so like I said, like we have a problem because we're alive, and when we talk about blessings, like we don't like all blessings don't come with a smile. All blessings don't come with kumbaya, right? So I look at the blessing of the journey. I look at the blessing of what my father gave me in his absence, right? He gave me a deep love, right? So even the picture that I just put up, I just put this picture up, right? Like it's know that.
Yeah, that's a lovely picture. I think I saw that one.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
love that I learned it through the absence of my father, right?
Blessing
So
in disguise, somebody says. Yeah.
even now, like 7 o'clock, literally we about to do a balloon release. And you see, some people go, my dad wasn't there, my father wasn't there, my mother, and they have all of this anger. It is no anger. I'ma still celebrate his life,
Yeah.
I'ma still acknowledge him that he created me.
Yeah.
So even in that, if your father wasn't there or your mother wasn't there, please do not let that harbor as
Yeah.
negative, painful emotions. Take the journey, process the journey, allow the pain to land, because it is information. So even in his loss, like I said, I told you guys earlier, I found out on Google. Literally like typing my name, and it's like, oh, I literally see my name, and me and my father got the same name, so it's like literally
Okay.
seeing my name and
Yeah.
seeing an obituary. I'm like, oh, and then I showed it to my
Yeah.
son, and my
That
son
is
came in the
crazy.
room. So man, like the blessings are in your face, the lessons are in your face. Like I say, your perception and perspective controls your reality. So
Yeah.
based on the perspective that you have about life, it's either holding you back, it's either
Yeah.
keeping you stuck, or it's setting you free. So the
Yeah.
freedom that I have based on my perspective, like
Yeah.
if it hurts, if it's like pain, that's not love you holding. See, I feel nothing but love for my father. I feel, even though, like I said, he wasn't there, cried, went through pain, it's
Because you put
still,
yourself in his pain. He definitely
yeah,
went through trauma to treat you that way,
yeah.
and didn't wasn't able to
And I don't
maybe
even
say,
know his full story. I don't know his full
yeah,
story. Like, even though we talked the one time we met, but like I said, I met my father, and literally, like, he just got his arm cut off and his fingers cut off because he was drinking and smoking. And so literally, like, when I met him and we talked for like 3 hours, and I made the decision, like, because he just was talking about how the hospital was saying that he should stop drinking and smoking. And literally after we talked, he like take me to the liquor store, and I'm like, man, I'm like, I can't attach myself to this person emotionally
yeah,
because he's committing suicide, you know. So I'll only be setting myself up for like failure, like.
yeah.
So with this, it's just nothing but love. It's nothing but love, and you and my sisters,
I
we.
definitely want to commend you. Uh, what I'm really hearing strongly from you, and I think that this is something that we deal with in a society when something bad happens to us. Yes, of course, we're
But
supposed to feel pain.
even that though, you see how we say something bad? Like, why is it that? Why do we describe it as that?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when life happens to us.
When life happens that maybe doesn't make us feel so good inside, let's
Yeah.
say that yeah. So when things like that happen, it's natural to feel pain. If you're gonna feel pain, I mean, we're human, you know.
Mm.
But what I'm hearing with your story, and what I even try to, as a coach, this is what I push to my clients, because we can sit there in the pain all day.
Mm.
There's no resistance to feeling pain and just being in a sad space. It's very easy. There's no
Mm.
resistance at all. But as a coach, it's all about how can we get from here to here. And with your story, I heard a lot of coming out of victimhood or victim mentality. I think that that's what we suffer as a people today. When something happens to us, we stay there in that place. We
Mm.
don't transmute or transform that energy or
Mm.
that situation experience into something. That's my crystal ball. Sorry.
Mm.
To something.
No,
But
I was vibing to that earlier. You
were
was
you
doing
good?
that.
Good.
You know.
Good. We don't transmute that. We stay in victimhood for the
Mm.
rest of our lives. And there's a quote by Les Brown. That's the reason why I brought this up, to say this. I think I'm not sure how it goes exactly, but it's like when adversity happens or when something quote unquote bad happens, is we say, why did that happen to me? Why did that happen to me? But your story is more like, yes, this happened to me, but who? When we said, why did that happen to me? Well, who better? That's what Les Brown says. Well,
Yeah.
who better
Mm.
should that happen to? So are you saying it should have happened to your neighbor? You
Mm.
know? So it's like you didn't allow that experience to make you bitter, or to hinder your growth and your healing and the way that you raise your children today. You transmuted that. You didn't stay in victimhood. So that's what
It.
I want to say. I think it's so important, because we can sit and say, okay, yeah, something happened to me at 5, and still stay there. You
Mhm.
know, there's remorse for that, but we have to worry about our growth. We have to worry about our transformations and how we can, heal this thing. So yeah, who better
And,
than you that for it to happen to you?
and it's all in ingredients. Like I said, if you look at your life like preparation, right? How did you get here? Right. So even as I communicate when I'm talking about, so yeah, like when I'm talking about, okay, we've been to Tanzania, we've been in Namibia, we've been to Dubai, we've been all of these places, right? But my son was on these stage talking to millions of, well, his largest audience, 20,000 people, 10,000 people, right? But that love, like I would have never had that deep. And the reason I learned love so much because I knew pain so deeply,
Yeah.
right? So even all the pain that I've been through as a kid, and that's the thing about life. Like the reason we become so impacted and so traumatized is because we're not familiar with pain. Like
Mm,
I learned pain at a young age.
yeah.
You know, like if life was like if life was a boxer, Mike Tyson punched me in the face with his hardest punch as 6 years, like 6 years old. Like what
Yeah.
did I do? Right? You say, what did I do to deserve this? Right? But that punch, you know, was an education.
Yeah. That
That
punch
that, that
saved your life in a way.
yeah.
Mm,
That punch was guiding me, right? Because
mm,
I'm gonna need you to be strong. I'm gonna need you to be, and we look at strength as fighting all the time, right? Sometimes
mm.
strength is being able to endure a punch,
Yeah.
not
Strength is
being,
knowing that you're weak.
yeah, and not being able, like we think, okay, he could fight, right? But okay, can you take a hit? You know what I'm saying? Can you take a hit? Can you embrace it? You know what I'm saying? So embracing my journey, right? Embracing and not being so hard and not being so like I say, when you learn to have empathy, I have empathy because I could have been my father, right?
Yeah.
It could have went either way. Hey, because I got a lot of friends that my father was never there for me, so I don't know how to be a father, right? But I took that, and it was like, what did my father not experience? What did he not know? What did he not do? Right? So let me reverse those actions. Let me show up, even if I'm afraid or not. Let me show up in my fear. Let me show up in my weakness, but let me show up, right? And let me have a conversation of however I show up. My son seen me weak. My son seen me cry. My son seen every element of his father, and 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 that is how I got him through life. Look, I was going through this in this moment, and you may go through this. You may go through a situation similar. You see how I handled it? I want you to understand that this is what comes with this. This is what comes with that. Because I'm not just raising the exterior of my son. Some people
Yeah.
raise the look of a man, right? So, okay, put this suit on. No, put this soul on.
Yeah.
You know? So when people meet my son, they're like, and like, he don't walk around like, okay, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. Even how he stopped his journey, like my son traveling the world, he like, Dad, I just want to go back to school. He was homeschooled since 4, you know, to last year. Last year was his first year in high school.
Wow.
He deleted it, temporarily deleted his Instagram. Kids want to go to school, be popular, 300,000 people verified. He like, look, man, I want to delete my Instagram. I just want to go to school. And my son is just love. He's just humble. He's just beautiful. He's just, and even I had to like go through a whole phase when I seen my son in school. Like, man, my son's still a kid. Like, cause he's so big. He's so
Yeah,
big
he's
to
an
me.
old soul. I've
Yeah,
seen a few of his videos. He's
he's so
definitely been here a
big.
few times.
Yeah, he's so big. Like he's so. I always seen him as huge, like just a
Yeah.
giant. But to see him
Yeah.
like, to see him struggle, to see him go through those journey. But like I said, that's where you find yourself. You find yourself in the most vulnerable areas of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Even me, like the way I started this journey, I started recording videos of myself. Because a psychotherapy, when you unpack your feelings and your emotions. So instead of journaling, I used to just record myself. So I record myself
So that could be
talking.
something. That could be a tip for the men.
I,
Something
I,
they can do in their private time, right?
Yeah,
Is
I teach
record
that in my
themselves. Okay.
sessions, in my one-on-one sessions. I teach
Okay.
that because you learn a lot when you see, like, we see ourselves even now. Like, you know how you talk and you see yourself and you fix yourself because you like I look crazy, like, right. So when we talk and when we talk to other people, we don't see our vulnerable face. We don't see our scared face. We don't see our
Yeah.
overwhelmed face, right?
Yeah.
So when you record that part of you and
Yeah.
document it, you learn so much about yourself. And that's how I started this journey to just jump on TikTok. And it's like, let me start having some of these conversations to the world. And I was like, I was crazy enough. Even people start calling me like, yo, you okay? Like people I knew my whole life because they never heard. And I jumped straight
Yeah.
online like, hey man, I was molested. Like people in my family ain't even know. So
Yes. Yeah.
I just jumped right onto the world
Yeah.
with this boldness, with this nakedness,
Yeah.
and that is the strength of like, because like I said, it's a lot of men that's real dark and cold, and that is where the anger and the murder and the suicide comes from. That a man that was molested, he turned it into anger, right?
Yeah.
But to get on on the internet and like speak it to the world, that took
Yeah.
more than me like
That is the
punching.
strength.
Yeah,
Yeah, that takes strength.
yeah.
And that takes you tapping into the other side
Yeah,
of your masculinity.
yeah,
To be able to be vulnerable to speak
yeah.
about these things to the world. And that's exactly why Divine Talks was created, was because of conversations like this, things that we have in our private spaces, on our videos that we recorded in our intimate space, or with our
Yeah.
loved ones, or in our minds, it takes it doesn't only take the strong side of a man to make such an impactful, or an impact that you're
But
making on the entire world. It
but
takes the
even
softer
that,
side.
even that, no. But this quote unquote softer side is the strongest I ever had to be.
That's my point.
Yeah. But when we call it soft, like no, like
Well,
this.
I'm
Look,
using,
look.
because, yeah,
Being
you know what I
tough,
mean.
being quote unquote tough when I used to just stand on the block with an angry face, that wasn't hard to do.
That was soft.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? That was really being a punk because I was running.
Exactly.
You know, when I was
And
running, when I was fighting, when I was like hurting
yeah,
people,
yeah,
that was me pushing it out negatively, right? But to
exactly.
go inside yourself and deal with it, that was the
Right.
hardest battle in the world. Like that's why a lot of people are not willing to do it.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that's why one of the outlines that I had was, how does society see masculinity? Is like you said, when you were standing on the block and you thought you were strong, but that's what society sees masculinity as,
Mm-hmm.
that. Oh, they're strong. They're ready to fight anybody that comes in their territory. Things like that. That's what we
and
look at.
I scared. Like I was my most scared there, but my fear it's like a lion. Like lions will kill you out of fear. Like you get too
Mm,
close. Like I was so afraid that I would protect myself out of fear. Even
yeah.
Jay-Z said that. Jay-Z said, when you look in someone's eyes, they go, "What you looking at?" Right? Because they think you see them. When you see me, I think you see, hey, I'm that little kid that was molested,
Yeah.
right? So I gotta
Yeah.
protect that. I gotta protect that being angry. I gotta protect
Yeah.
that being tough. I gotta protect that being hard. It's like
Yeah.
women. It's like it's
It's
like
the
women.
map.
Look, it's like women. Y'all do this, right? So many men done walk and talk to y'all. Y'all just like, get out of here. I'm like, y'all not really mean. Y'all just tired of like men coming up and talking to y'all. So y'all put on this little dismissive face. No, I got a man already. Leave me alone, right? But it's
Some
just,
women, me personally, I don't do that because I
yeah,
don't talk to people that way. But I know what you're saying.
yeah,
I know what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah, it's true. It's very
yeah.
true. Wow. This was really, 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 really amazing. Let me take some questions. You want to read some questions before I go to close out with some questions for you?
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Um, Usually they're 90 minutes, but I kind of had a feeling that when me and you got on here, it was gonna go longer than 90 minutes. But
Nah, no problem. Like I say, and even
this
that's the
topic,
thing. That's the thing as I build and I grow, because like TV, a lot of stuff reaching out to me, and it's like, you reach out to me, and
amazing.
I'm just like,
Yeah,
you have a piece of content for my, you know, put it up, use it how you gonna use it, and
yeah, yeah.
I,
Thank
I
you.
need I need these as I grow, and
Yes. Same here.
it's
I'm on my path, and this
yeah.
is part of my journey. Definitely.
And the funny thing about it, like sometimes, and for people that's building their brands, like people will turn down people with followers and all this. No, I go off of
Yeah,
energy. I go off of
yeah.
genuine people. And this interview could be better than something that I do on big production TV, because they gotta like keep it in a box, and it's
Thank
like,
you for saying that. Thank you.
yeah,
And thank you for being the person, the being that you are, because you're so right. I was talking to one of my girlfriends and I said, wow, I don't think that maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago I would have had the audacity to reach out to someone who I looked as oh wow, this person has a lot of people know this person. They're like in a status that maybe I didn't feel myself in, and I don't
yeah,
even know why, but that's the mental. Like,
yeah,
oh, this person has 100,000 followers. I don't think they'll reply to my message.
yeah.
So we have this mental. I know I
I,
did,
I hate that,
but
man.
I'm glad you said that.
I hate it. I hate it. Even when
Yeah,
I
it's
respond to people,
crazy.
people like, "Oh my God, you responded." But I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
Even people that
yeah,
follow me, like a lot of like celebrities, like
yeah.
so many people follow me, and I'm like, 'cause even from my sons, a lot of people know who my son is. 'Cause everybody follow my son, and it's like they'll follow you, and sometimes you respond to the celebrities. And I got celebrity friends, and some celebrities don't own their accounts, and then sometimes, because it's like my TikTok is difficult, and even it is difficult with the Instagram. Like the more you grow, it is difficult. But I do try to take my time to make sure I reach back to everybody. And I'm not with that. Like I reach out to people, man, especially people that support
Because you're a
me.
real person and
Yeah,
you understand. That's why you're not
yeah,
operating from your egotistical self. You've
yeah,
balanced that,
yeah,
and you've gone through some things in life to know what it really takes to be a real human being,
yeah,
an authentic human being. Everything else is weird. But again, this is the programming. I'm also coming out of certain programming because I don't think I would have reached out to you if I wasn't.
yeah,
I didn't, in my mind, I'm like, okay, what's the worst you can say is no or don't respond?
yeah,
What is going to happen? Nothing. You see what I'm saying? So we
yeah.
all have to get there. Like, I'm not afraid to reach out if the person says no. We're afraid
Yeah.
of rejection.
Never do, never
So,
do. Like I say, like I love your energy, and like I'm gonna
thank
follow you
you.
now. You know what I'm saying? So
Thank
however I can
you.
help you, however I could
I
guide you,
appreciate that.
and just be a counterpart to your journey. And that's what I'm building. Like when I build my world, my books, my I want my world to just look totally different. How I do my events, like I just everything, because my world is coming together. Even a couple of
Mm.
times, like if you watch this live and you just see me laugh out of nowhere, I still look at myself like, man, I can't believe I'm doing this. I don't care how much content I
Trust
got.
me. Same here.
I don't care how much content I got, how much I
Yeah, yeah,
grow.
yeah.
I still catch myself like, oh, like, even,
Yeah, it's
and
real.
I laugh. I laugh at how you wrote the bio, like, media sensation. I'm like, who is she talking about? Like, it's
Well,
like,
you are. Hey,
yeah.
that's reality. But again, that's you,
Yeah.
yeah, coming into to
Me and my son laugh at this all day because people that know me, like I say, my
yeah,
son whole journey, my son was in Forbes, Good Morning America. Like I ran away from every television show and everything. So it's funny that my son stopped and I'm doing it. And like I say, I'm just embracing it, man. I'm embracing it. And my advice for everybody follow me, that I want you guys to know that I'm a real person, and that's the balance of this, right? So
yeah.
I'm not, even like I say, TV shows. So like people reach out to you and they just like, I done turned so many TV shows down for my son, and then it's different now because
That's amazing. That's amazing. You don't hear
it's
that
like,
every day, but that's amazing. This is
yeah,
where we need to get to
yeah.
because we're all selling our souls out here, and that stuff is getting crazy.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
I equate it differently because everybody use that language, but I equate it to like some things are too expensive, right? So if something costs you your peace, if something costs you a balanced lifestyle, so sometimes we're ready to just jump in opportunities that we're not ready for. You know what I'm saying? So even with my son being able to go back to school, because he just did like 4 episodes of Nickelodeon, and like a lot of people do know my son, but he still was able to just tuck back into society. You know, so even me now, like
That's amazing.
sometimes I
Yeah,
walk around and I like see people look at me and I'm thinking like,
yeah.
you know, like, do they
That's
know me?
amazing.
And even I was in line. I was in line one time at the store, and it was a little girl. She had to be like 5, 6 years old. She's like, "Mom, I know him. I know him. I seen him." I'm just in line, like, you know. So it's
Yeah,
like it's a process to even when
yeah,
the switch happened for you. But if someone know me, I'm happy for what they know me for. You know, I never had to like compromise my authentic self. So if
yeah.
you know me, you know the love that I communicate. And I'm never gonna put out a representation of myself that I'm not happy with, you know. So it's always gonna be love, you know. So
Mhm.
that's what I want to be. Like no matter how big this get, I just want to
Yes,
represent that, you know. And I don't
listen.
want to get lost in it,
Yes,
you know.
yes. And yes, I commend you. And it's humility. And you see, your son is like that. That means that to me, I feel like that energy or that personality or that trait is part of your DNA.
Yeah,
That's how I mean, I'm a spiritual life coach, so everything for
yeah,
me is spiritual, so
yeah,
don't mind me. But I think that that's powerful because your son has that. That tells you that that's the trait that you innately carry. So
yeah.
that's beautiful. That's why you are in the position that you're in.
I had to unravel that in therapy too, um, because literally like 2, 3 years ago, I only had like 4 pictures with my son, and my son had like 3,000 pictures. You know, so when I was going to therapy, my therapist, she explained that to me. She said, "You're still running from yourself." She said, "You don't want to see yourself because you don't want to deal with what you've been through and the pain." So I was still running from myself, even though I thought it was like a conscious decision of no, I don't want to do TV, I don't want to do this. I was still like hiding, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Powerful,
Yeah.
powerful. Okay. There are a few questions before I ask the last ones here. So there's someone that wrote a question. See, peace of mind is priceless. Beautiful to stay humble. I saw a question here. Okay, someone says, I would love you to respond to my situation.
Mhm.
The name is my Ama's Picks. I would love you to respond to my question, my situation. My ex is in a depression, lost and feeling hopeless. He feels that he has to learn how to love himself. How do I be there? He isn't open to support. Do you have a response for Miss My Ama's Pick?
Yes. Um, don't try to go in. Don't try to communicate. Like, look, I'm gonna talk about it the way that I helped my mother, right? So with my childhood and the things that I'm gonna try to make this like sum it up or whatever the case, right? All the pain that I went through, all the suffering and the neglect and me being sent away, foster home with my mother. I always used to approach my mother with the anger, right? I didn't know that I was approaching my mother with the anger. I didn't know that I was triggering my mother and shutting my mother down. people, my brother-in-law, because we gotta do these
I'm like, is
balloons
that
and
your
whatever.
mother again? This is the
Nah,
second time she's
it's my
calling.
brother-in-law, because we gotta do the balloons.
Stop
I told you
talking about her.
for my father and all that.
Okay,
Hold on real
okay.
quick, please.
Yes, please.
Hey, hey, sorry about that. I'm on an interview real quick. No, I don't got him. I was gonna pick him up. So if y'all could get him for me or whatever, I'll give y'all the money. Okay.
Guys, for being patient. This is real
All right.
life
So
right
I'll pick him
now,
up. It's okay.
right?
I'll just interview real quick. All right. Like,
I was just telling them thanks for being patient. You
yeah,
literally
yeah,
just found out some devastating news yesterday, and
yeah, yeah. Sorry about
everything's
that.
happening now. So yes, there's no problem at all.
Yeah.
Everybody's actually wondering how you're even still here when you're supposed to be dealing with other things. But
Nah.
yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, you were finishing the lady's question
So I was
about
talking about like with
how
my.
she can support her mate.
Okay. So when you're dealing with depression, when you're dealing with anxiety, when you're dealing with mental and emotional issues, trauma, right? The thing when you trigger these feelings and you trigger these emotions, you take someone back into the same spot. So trauma is just like music, right? So you ever think about a song that you used to listen to when you was a kid or your mother used to listen to? When you hear that song, it takes you right back into that same space, right? You relate to that, right? So when it comes to trauma, the feelings and emotions that he's not used to dealing with and confronting with himself, it's about the approach, making him feel comfortable, making him open up. So you'll never open him up by going to him saying, hey, you need to talk about this. You need to deal with this depression, or you need to deal with this, right? So the way that you need to build another level of closeness with him, it's about finding the things that bring him joy. So if it's sports, you got to learn how to connect to his world. So the reason I brought up my mother, because the way that me and my mother found healing, it's I had to deal with my own space, right? I had to deal with the anger that I had built up from my mother, the frustration that I had built up from my mother. And when I learned how to deal with that, I had to take away the superhero syndrome. Because I looked at my mother like, okay, she just did all of these things to me. But when I learned how to look at my mother like a little girl, and I learned how to look at my mother like a young lady that was just trying to survive and doing the best that she could do at the time, that let me have empathy and compassion for my mother's experience. And then when I learned how to have compassion for her experience, I changed the approach. So instead of me going and saying, why you did this and why you did that, because what I was doing, I was shutting my mother down. I was triggering her. So as long as I was triggering her, she was creating a defense. And then that created tension. And then with the tension, that turned into arguments, that turned into yelling. So what I started doing was just having fun with my mother. Started taking my mother out. I learned my mother world. I learned the things she enjoyed. I took her to the movies, right? So we built a new level of friendship and trust. So with that friendship and trust, it wasn't about an argument. It wasn't about me coming to her with my childhood pains, because what I learned, right? When I was going to my mother about molestation, the reason she was shutting it down, because a year and some change later, she opened up that she was molested,
Mm.
right? So my situation was triggering her.
Just triggering hers, yeah.
And also I learned that she had issues academically, and that was the reason she never helped me with my homework. I always equated it to my mother didn't care. My mother never
Mm-hmm.
cared about me. She ain't never checked my homework, right? So you
Yeah.
have to find another level of connection, find another level of friendship, to where your husband is not going to shut down, to where he's not going to dismiss you. So whatever his world is, if his world is sports, if his world is, right? So you have to find a comfort zone, right? If he always argue with you in the house or always argue with you on the phone, you can't have these vulnerable conversations on the phone. You can't have these vulnerable conversations in his comfort zone. Take him out of his comfort zone. It might take 6 months for you to build this comfort zone. You might have to learn about the Eagles, right? He might have to see you you might catch him off guard. What you watching football with me for, right? And you're going to build a whole new friendship. And with that friendship, now you start to introduce new information, and not as something that's helping him heal, but hey, I was reading something and I want you to check this out with me, right? So instead of going into his trauma, go into the category of his trauma, go into a similar story of his trauma, and find the information, right? Find the information that deal with him shutting down, that deal with whatever it is that he could be going through, right? And also, I want you guys to know I do provide one-on-one sessions. If you would like
Yes.
to book a one-on-one session, you could just send me an inbox. I do charge for my one-on-one sessions. So if I could help you guys, give you information, give you details, give you the content, give you the articles or the books, you know, I could definitely help you out in those areas.
And I'll leave your info when I post the video, by the way, whatever info you want me to put there so they can reach out to you directly.
Okay. And like I say, so for me, it was, and sometimes it take traumatic events. Sometimes it take like, you know, a loss. Sometimes it take a breakup where people have those mental and emotional shifts where people are not afraid. They're so down or they're so hurt that they just go into an area of their emotions that they never went into. But it is a real thing. Like when you never deal with your own trauma and, you know, you're in that fight or flight survival mode, so you won't let anyone else close. But, you know, you have to really, really build a new relationship. You have to really build a new foundation. And like I say, when me and my mother built that, like me and my mother is so close. Like I think my mother tell me about everything and anything because she knows she's safe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. That's a beautiful answer. I want to add something to that too, because sometimes as us women, we feel we're nurturers. So we naturally want to save the day or take care of our men. If he's going through depression, sometimes it has nothing to do with us. And sometimes as women, I had to learn this in my own journey too, is to allow certain things. And I know she says this is her ex. And the question I was going to ask is this, what did you break up with him? Did he break up with you? Because maybe this is a great moment, being that he's your ex, for him and for you to take time to look within. Because sometimes we try to control too. We can't control how long he's going to be in that state. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to allow patience. You have to allow time. If you seek to be with him again in the future, you can't try to control when he actually heals or gets out of this depressive state. I would advise what I've learned in my own journey is when I started working on my own self instead of looking outside or looking to help someone out or to point fingers at someone else. When I started doing the work within myself, everything around me has slowly started to change. Not because I'm doing anything to them. I went within. So that's another thing I want to tell the lady that asked the question. Go within your own self, be that change, or heal within. I'm not saying that you have anything to heal from. What I'm saying is let him learn from you. Let him see what you're doing in your own life, the time that you're spending with yourself, the self-love that you're giving yourself, the traumas that you went through and you're addressing, getting more information about whatever's going on with you to have the information to help yourself. Let him see all these things that Dash was just saying within you. That's how you can show up for him the most, because you can't really do anything practically for him at this moment. If you could, you wouldn't make the comment of saying, he feels that he has to learn to love himself. He's feeling hopeless. How do I be there? He's not open to support. So it's clear that he's putting some type of barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes again, I'm speaking for myself. I don't know her journey. I know my journey.
Mm-hmm.
I try to control. Okay, something is not working. Okay, let's fix it. You come from good intentions, of course. We're nurturers. We come from good intentions. But I had to learn that that's not the way
Yeah.
to help someone else,
Yeah.
especially men. Men and women are inherently different. So men are going to go through things and heal differently the way that we're going to go through things and things like that. So that's what I would say. I would say go within, do some things within yourself, and let him see you. If you guys are still in contact, let him observe you. Don't try to be there for him practically. Be there for you. Let him see you. Let him mirror that thing you want to him. Mirror that to him. Let him see that within your own self, and maybe that will help him. That's
And
what I think of.
even with my mother, like like sometime that rule or law, right? So because she was my mother, it's like you look at your parents like I can't teach you nothing. Even that's how I think my mother was looking at me, kinda. But that's why I made the joke, and I told like me and my mother, that's our joke. Like I say, I'm the first man you ever met, right? And I think right? Because I'm her son, so of course she's not looking at me like a regular man or being romantic. And it's like a lot of times I think a lot of women don't feel comfortable because that parallel was always there. Like, okay, is this real? Is this genuine? If I open up, if I tell my secrets, if I talk about my flaws, if I talk about the things that I've been through, is this person going to use it against me? Right. So, like I said, when me and my mother just build, first, I definitely had to work on myself because, like I said, I had to stop seeing my mother as a superhero. I had to stop seeing my mother as that she caused me so much pain because she hate me or because she didn't like me. Because that's what I used to think. Okay, why you give me away? But maybe giving me away was okay. I don't know how to love him. Right? She don't know what I was going through in crazy hospitals and foster homes. So they could be saying, "Oh, he's doing amazing, he's doing great." No, I was going through hell, like, right? But I was going through an education. I was going through a void. I was going through brokenness. I was suffering, right? So all that suffering I equated to she did this to me, right? But her reality coming from her being molested, her going through pain, her going through trauma, her going through all of these things that she expressed to me that I was the first person in life that she talked to. Even when I put up a video talking about scars are beautiful, right? Because behind every scar, it's a story, right? So sometimes we hide these scars. And my mother, she got a big scar on her arm, right? So like she never said what happened, like, but even that talking about, she like, oh, I had a fight in school, and they used to call me Napoleon, right? So that was like a whole story and an expression and a freedom of like her telling these stories, right? So sometimes we have scars on our soul, sometimes we have scars on our heart, and we're hiding them, and because many different reasons. But when we express them and when we learn how to express them and we learn how to water a person, right? So if you look at the people you love, like a flower, you can't just because you do your job, that don't mean things happen when you do it. You could water a flower all you want. It's not going to pop out the ground as soon as the water hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're like, oh, I was there for you. Okay? Then be there for me. There for me ain't when like it runs out because you losing patience. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, be there for me. Hold me down. Grow with me. Like imagine us watering a tree. I watered it already. Okay? Keep watering it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The sun don't go, I shined yesterday. So I'm not coming out today. You know? So love like you watering a tree. Just do your
Patient.
do your part.
Okay. Okay. So see, I'm trying. Change is inevitable, and so is improvement. I can relate to that. I have scars, and most of my insecurity. I saw that today. Scar is beautiful. That was fire.
Sometimes I record my videos and it's like it be because that's why where I'm comfortable, like just being comfortable in thought, right? Because I know like sometimes my thoughts could be like all the way left, or it's like, all right, nah, the person I need to get this gonna get this. The person I need to hear it gonna hear it, and like allowing yourself to just be free in thought. I'm like, man,
Mm.
somebody gonna get this, somebody gonna feel this, and somebody gonna understand. And it's like
Yes,
that's where I
yes,
come from.
definitely. And thank you for that. I know you have to go too, so I'll just ask you the last few questions here. I'm not sure if you see any other questions, please go ahead. But I know you also have to go as well, so I don't want to keep you too longer as well. Let's see. You answered some of the questions I have already.
and
So
and if you want to do a part two, if you got some more
yeah,
people,
I was actually gonna ask you. It's like
yeah,
you're
no.
gonna say it right now on live TV. So, I
Let me
would
let
you
me let me tell you.
would you come back on this show with me? I want everybody to hear it now, so you can't
No, look,
you
look.
can't go back on your word.
Ain't no can't. I don't live like that, right? So
Okay.
it's people in life that think being used is a wrong thing, right? I appreciate how you're using me. Okay.
Of course.
Just don't misuse me.
Of course. That's the
Right.
key.
So
That's the key.
when you have value, allow yourself to be used. Right. So use me, especially for what we're talking
Somebody
about.
said would love a part two. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Let's,
Mish, listen.
let's
Yes,
do a
yes,
part
yes,
two if you want. Get some
yes.
other people in here and just build.
Okay,
And
yeah, I
you
appreciate
know,
that. Thank you. So the
no
last
problem.
question, the last few questions here is, what change in yourself have you noticed since, I would say, since you you cultivated a more healthy ego. Let me say it that way. Because I think, because sometimes when we say masculinity, femininity, no, I'm not saying don't be in your ego or pride is bad or ego is bad or masculinity is bad. No, it's just about making it healthy. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. You know, ego is good, pride is good. We need that. I love my ego and my pride, but it's healthy. It's not in a condescending way.
Mm-hmm.
So what changes have you found, have you seen in yourself since you know, from that little boy on the block to who you are now? After your son and your transformation.
That I
I could
value.
watch this all day. Monkey, money poke.
I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you. That's love.
Okay. Look, it's one thing I always say, right? Like when you really value solitude, when you value just being at peace, because it's a transition that happens, right? So it's a lot of people that think they're bored, but it's not that you're bored. You just grew out of everything that used to make you happy, right? So you're living on another level of your life. So you're going to say, okay, I'm lonely, right? But it's not that you're lonely. You're living life on a level that you're protecting yourself. So that's one thing that I notice on a high level, that I just protect myself on every level, you know, and the little boy me, the lustful me, right? I would try to be what I am now, but I would let any and everything interfere, you know? So it's like, when men try to get this journey, it's like, oh, this lady or this woman is so beautiful, and it's like, okay, you let looks interrupt your healing journey. You let this business opportunity interrupt your healing journey. You let because that's where life is going to, wherever your weakness is, life is like that leak in the ceiling or that leak in your sunroof, right? Water gonna find its way in. Distractions will find its way in. Right when you're trying to grow, right when you're trying to heal, right when you're trying to elevate. So where I am in my life right now, like, things have to qualify to be a part of my world. And it's not that I think that I'm, no, like, I just literally made a video about, like, it takes you a lifetime to heal sometime, right?
Yeah.
So when you live with your healed heart, like, wow, I just got this, like, how you get your new sneakers and you're like, nah, I ain't playing basketball in these sneakers, like,
Yeah.
I just got this heart, and I'm not just giving it away to anybody, like, or I just got this mind. I just replenish and rebuild my soul, so I'm so protective of it, you know so I'm analyzing everything, I'm watching everything, and and this is something I always communicate, right? So when we look at society, when we look at countries, when we look at cities, right, the way that they protect the people and the citizens is with laws, right? And then when you look at the workspace, the way you protect people in the workspace is policies. Now, the way you protect your mind, your heart, and your soul is standards and boundaries. You have to have boundaries. You have to have do's and don'ts. And no matter how much you like somebody or feel you love somebody, when someone is in a territory of, I don't like that, that hurts, I don't feel comfortable with that, that's not what I want in my energy. You have to learn how to remove people. You have to let people disqualify themselves out of your life. I'm genuine with everybody. I show love to everybody. I give trust to everyone. But you disqualify yourself.
Yeah.
A certain action, certain conversation, certain way you conduct yourself, you don't fit here, right? Because with information, with communication, healing, no healing, right? Same way you go to the gym and you see a person, man, I know what that person did. to acquire that body, right? When you see a person on the level of what it took you to get to where you are, you know. So I'm just so protective because it took me so long to get here. So this is another level when I say I could interact with women without wanting anything, because I could appreciate, value, and respect you, but that don't mean, you know, that you make it close to me.
Well said.
So like, oh, like protective, like just protecting myself.
Boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you, that's so powerful. I feel like when you start loving yourself more, you care about who you have around your
Yeah.
energy, your space. That makes sense. Okay. Um, so what's the saddest, most innermost cry of a man?
So like I told you, that's different because man is not the same. So if you
Yeah,
asking
we're just
me,
throwing it out there. Yeah.
if you're asking me, that's a great question. What is my saddest? What is
See,
my
now you're
saddest?
talking about my notebooks. You see why I need my notebooks?
That's beautiful. What's the saddest cry? Wow.
Yes, because this is for the men. The reason I started, I chose this
That's for
topic is
everybody. That's
I need
beautiful.
men to feel this in their
I'm
soul.
about to make
Yes.
that a video right there. What is the saddest cry? I never like had to stop and think. What is my saddest cry?
Or even if you can tap into the collective generally, what is the saddest cry of a black man in America
Now look,
or a man, period, you
I,
know?
I I think my saddest cry was it was this boys' home I was in, right? And I had this teddy bear, and the teddy bear smelled like my living room, my mother's house. And like I used to smell the teddy bear to smell my house and cry,
Mm.
you know? So it's like I think it's like in there. Um I can't even say like when I was molested because like my emotional space was like ruined. So I don't know how I processed that, you know. Um like watching my son cry is like a sad cry for me. Because it's different cries. It's like traumatic cries. 'Cause I had, like I say, my friends die, and then I had I had because I told you like I literally had to learn how to cry, right? So for all the crying that I didn't do at a young age, I did the last 5 years of my life. Like and my tears were senior citizens. They was like, man, there's like, man, we was supposed to come out when you was 8, but you ain't let us out. You know, they my tears had canes and crutches and walkers. Like,
Dry and rotten cries.
yeah. So that's the thing about healing. Like when you heal, you like a grown infant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
And it
Yes.
took me time. It took
Yes.
me time because literally, like, I could be anywhere and I would break down and I could not control my tears. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. That's the thing when it come to people that you think you tough, you think you no, them tears don't go nowhere. Them tears are still there, like those
Yeah.
backed up
Yeah.
emotions and feelings. And like you cry with the same intensity that you were supposed. It's a video that I
Yeah.
did on my page talking about trap trauma, and and it's with a polar bear, and it showed like these hunters, they was hunting a polar bear, and they shot the polar bear with the tranquilizer gun. But before they shot it, it was running and it was in danger. It was in fear of its life, right? But when they shot it with the tranquilizer gun and it fell out. But the minute it started to breathe and gain consciousness, it was shaking and it was convulsing because the trauma was still trapped in the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing about when we don't deal with our feelings and our
Yeah.
pain, that
Yeah.
trauma is still trapped. So literally, like these last 5 years, like I cried the tears of my 8-year-old self, my 6-year-old self, and like so like those tears was like overwhelming. That wasn't even sad. That was
Yeah.
like that was like more of a spit up, like rah, like
Yeah.
it was like a frustration. It was like a freedom, but like I say, my sadness tears was more like yearning, or like wanting to like heal or help. So like my sadness is different, or like um a completion, right? Because I won't say break up. And I don't say break up and I don't say ex, right? Because I was in a relationship that really, really was a big breaking point of my healing. So my plus, I don't say X, I say plus. Anybody that added to your life, I don't think you should put an X on them, right? So my plus, that was sad for me because she was like God in a woman's body. But
Oh.
but she was college for me. She was like Master Splinter. You know, she like for my healing. She was sent to like make me heal.
Yeah,
And like
definitely.
half of the stuff I talk about relationships, I learned because I wasn't
Yeah.
listening at the time, nor did I know how to listen because my trauma was interrupting the information. And that's why I say it's about watering. Like, so she did a lot of watering and I grew in her absence. You know, and that's what women have to understand as well. Sometimes you're just a waterer. You're not the soil that's going to grow the man. Sometimes, unfortunately, you might be watering another man for another woman.
You said it.
You
That's a
know,
curse word. You said it.
that's the painful thing in the world. They're
Yeah.
like, I done did all this work. How y'all feel about that? Look, I know y'all gonna shoot me.
Ah, I
Y'all gonna
mean,
put.
like for me, I haven't had many substantial relationships in my life.
Mm,
I've had just a few. So I haven't had a lot of like a long time, like 7, 8, 10 years. So I don't know if that's ever happened to me per se. I mean, I do have exes that are married now, but um, I was younger then. Now I can say that I think that it would, I mean, it breaks any woman's heart because we know what we give into relationships. You
mm,
know, we come from the womb, you know, so imagine that.
yeah.
So everything we do is like from the womb, like we're so deep.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that for a man, and then you know the next you realize that this person is with someone else,
Somebody's reaping the benefit of your tears.
yeah, exactly. So I mean that causes, I mean, like I said, I've never gone through this personally, but again, I can tap in to know that this causes depression. People
Yeah.
talk about, women talk about these things. And the way I look at it, because of where I am now in my spiritual growth, like you said, I think that's exactly what life is. I think that, you know, that's why I was advising the lady earlier. We control and we've been taught to control.
Mm.
No one or nothing belongs to me.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one or nothing belongs to you. It would never. But that's the problem that we have as a society, that we attach. You know, like I'm in a space in my life now where I'm accepting that maybe I was in somebody's life for that reason.
Yeah.
It's because of healing that I've gone through. It's
Yeah.
because of higher knowledge that I have now acquired. That's why I have this perspective. Maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't have felt that way. I would have been like, yeah, that's not fair. Like, I would have been bitter about it.
Mm.
But now I understand that this world is too big and the agenda is way more vast than we can ever consume. So I am also growing within myself in that topic. Like I want to detach myself from being with someone and they end up with someone else and I've instilled all these things in them, or they, you know, and it goes on. Maybe it just wasn't. And another aspect of that, I don't mean to digress, but when things like that happen, if I realize I'm giving too much, I need to look within,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a lot of times what happens. You're giving too much to something else and you're not looking at your own self-value. You're not
Mm.
even open to receiving as much as you give.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't work that way. The way I'm learning it is men are not as emotionally tied as we are. And also I'm realizing that some men can see within women when our worth is very low. And that's not attractive.
Look. You know, I call that the baby deer syndrome, right? You know, when I was operating from a low self-esteem, and it's a lot of men that operate from low self-esteem and hurt, right? So in nature, when a mother deer is pregnant, the lions, tigers will stalk the mother, right? And what they're waiting for is the mother to give birth because the baby deer can't protect itself, right? It's vulnerable. It can't walk, right? So the older deers really have to protect the baby deer. But they're hunting because they know you're vulnerable, right? So men know when you're in baby deer mode,
Yes,
right?
that's
We
why they go to someone else, because originally that's something, not speaking about all men, but sometimes that man has they've already made a decision what
Well,
role
look,
you're
look,
going to
look.
play in their
That
lives.
type of man is, like I say, it's a certain level of vulnerability and brokenness in him already, right? So
Of course.
you
Of
become a
course.
predator. You become a predator because if you're vulnerable, if your senses are down, if you have low self esteem, it's going to be easy for me to manipulate you and do what I want to do with you, right? Because you can't protect yourself. Your senses are down. So just like the baby deer, you're vulnerable, you're weak, you just came into the world. So when you
Yeah.
just get out of that relationship, and when you went through a loss, or you're going through that moment where you're just not in tune and you're not, as quick as you would be, it's really men that prey on that space.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was off subject, but yeah, if you're feeling like you're giving too much, doing too much, and
Yeah, and I don't
that
even
will not
think
be
it's just
accepted.
men. I don't even think it's just men. I think a lot of women prey on that. Like it's people. Like we could say
Yeah, no
men,
way.
women.
We're talking about
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just going off the statement you made. But of
yeah.
course, this people are people. I mean, there's stuff on men and there's stuff on women.
Predators.
It goes both
Yeah,
ways. Always,
predators.
always.
Even in
Yeah.
young, cause I wouldn't say that's why men date younger women, because you got many other reasons why older men date younger women, but also
Hmm.
with the lack of information, knowledge, and you know demands or whatever the case, many different reasons.
Awesome. Okay, wow. So we have really this was a very great topic and a very great co-host, Dashan. Is it okay? I say Dashan. I'm so used to is it Dashan? Dashan? Dash? I know you like Dash.
I'll tell you guys, right? So me and my father has the same name. I don't want to give that name, right? But
Okay.
back to my father again. Like being that my father never raised me, my father never was there. I never felt like that was my name. You know, so Dash is what I gave myself, named myself. You know, but in branding purposes or whatever the case, I'm going to have to change Dash. So whatever I put, Dash here, Dash Sean, or whatever the case. But when people ask me, is that my real name? That is the name that resonates with me. That's the name that sits with me because
Okay.
what my father named me. So even now, like I said, it's not a hate. It's just not a connection. You know. So it's Dash, but it's going to be changed in a little while for like
Okay.
branding purposes because it's like another company online with Dash, whatever the case. But so as I brand and move forward, it'll be. But when people ask me if that's my real name, as far as connect, because when we say name, like what is a name? Name is something you identify. Like
A
we could say
label. Yeah.
government or whatever the case. But even like Jamie Foxx, Jamie Foxx is not Jamie Foxx. That's not his real name. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, his real name is like a girl name. I forgot his real name, and it's funny because a comedian he changed his name based on like comedians thought he was a girl when they was announcing him, so he changed his
Okay.
name. So he got a funny thing. So like
Yeah,
Dash,
interesting.
yeah. So it's a whole thing, and like I say, as my journey documented, even like because there's so many dynamics and so many layers to like my story, and it's like that's my job as a person that's like I would say, you can't hold on and jump at the same time. So
Mm,
literally, man, like 2021 after the pandemic, it's like
yeah.
I didn't know everything was going to be moving as fast as it's moving.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah. The
like I
shift
say,
is real.
yeah, I always say I'm in the air and I'm still in the air, and
Yeah.
I'm creating everything as I'm going. So as you guys see me grow and catch up and really, 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 really step out there. Because most of the time I'll just be in my house, and it's like, but like I say, now these shows and now people and now things are reaching out, and it's like I'm ready to like take those steps, and you know, so
Yes.
you know,
Amazing. Amazing. Um, do you want to leave any last minute words before I close out? I do have a bird analogy I want to give before we close out. If you have something
you said a
to,
bird analogy.
yeah. So I was watching TED, I was
Yeah.
watching TED Talks the other day, and it was around this topic because I try to get content before
Mm,
the shows. Um, I was talking about a bird and how when a bird is in air, when it's
mm,
flying, when it's
mm,
soaring, the bird has two wings on both sides. And the way it relates to the topic as far as the other side of masculinity. So think of the male, the man, as a bird in the sky. And the way the bird is made, it's not just one wing that goes across its back. It's one wing, it's their body, and then it's another wing. So it's two wings. It's not just like one flat wing. And I'm saying that for a reason. So those two flaps of wing, think about that as the yin and the yang. So the masculine and the feminine side of the man. So imagine that one of the wings is bruised or it's broken, or we can call that trauma, whatever the case may be. It's not functioning well. We all know what that happens when a bird's wing, one of his wings, is wounded.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at the bird analogy is, in order to have a well-fulfilled life as a man, as anyone, but the topic is about men today, you have to understand that both sides are equally important. You can't fly with one wing, even if that's the masculine wing. You need the other side. You need the other wing to be able to soar, to be able to be successful, to be able to be abundant, to be able to reach levels that you can only fathom in your spirit. So that's what I wanted to leave in, because that analogy just I mean, I thought it was so powerful, because a man can be like, okay, so why is this topic important to me? I don't care. I'm functioning fine. It's easy to say that, you know, we all may be functioning fine. But if you want to, again, these topics are only for people who are on a level of growth. Not, you don't have to. This is not, no one is forcing anybody to do anything. This is for people who are interested in their own self-transformation and their own self-growth and being the best versions of themselves. So think about yourself as that wing. Know that, yeah, you got the masculine side, but you need the other side of the wing for you to actually fly. So that's
Look,
the bird analogy I had.
so let me leave you guys with a bird analogy that I made up, right? So my bird analogy was,
Oh, you have a bird analogy too. Okay.
yeah, I got every analogy in the world.
Okay.
That's how my brain go, right?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
every day
Great
around the
analogy.
world,
Both sides need it. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
every day around the world, a bird get hit by a car,
Mm.
right? And it's not that the bird can't fly; it's just not using its wings, right? So we all have the ability to be great. We all have the ability to fly. We all have the ability to be successful, you know, in our relationships, to be successful parents, to be successful entrepreneurs, you know. But it's a part of you that you're not utilizing in the moment. That's why you're experiencing what you're currently experiencing. You have all the tools in the world to fly. Anybody you admire, anyone you look up to, have all the parts and pieces that you have. You just have to use them. That's my bird analogy.
Love it. Love it. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you guys for such an amazing, being an amazing audience on this conversation. Again, my name is Loretta Ita, and I'm a spiritual life coach here in Las Vegas. You can book a free 25-minute coaching session, strategy call, consultation. The link is in the bio. What I do is help people get past invisible blockages that stand between where they are now and where they're trying to go. So digging deep into the inner workings of where of patterns that are keeping us stuck, and seeing where they came from and healing them into the better versions of yourself is what I do. Again, thank you so much, Dash, for being here. I'll put all your information. I mean, I'll just tag you, but if there's any information you would like me to put in the caption on how people can reach out to you and have a one-on-one session, please let me know. And again, my condolences to you and your family on your loss. And I'm sure that you have a lot of planning to do now. I see people are calling you. Your family is reaching
Yeah.
out to you. So I know
Well,
you're busy.
I actually live like hours away from my mother and stuff like that. So my sister and my brother-in-law, we live close. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a balloon ceremony. And where else at?
Yeah.
It's crazy though.
Love. Sending love energy. Love energy.
I
And don't
appreciate it.
reject it. Stop it. Stop
No,
it.
no,
Just
no.
say
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Like I
okay.
said, it mean a lot. Cause I went into a whole deep dive too. Cause I was on like, cause once I found my father, cause it was crazy. We had like a whole three-way on the phone. My sisters, my mother, and like we did stuff we never did. I found I found my mother's father. You know, I found my mother. I found my mother's mother. Her name is Betsy Bonaparte. Even that, like, it's just crazy. My last name, my father, yeah, I'm named after my father, but my mother family, it's crazy. So we just found like a whole discovery, like that we
Yeah.
about to find out. You know, so
Wow.
it's,
Wow.
it's
It
mind blowing.
usually happens like that, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
thank
that's
you guys.
amazing.
Thank you guys. I
Yes, yes.
appreciate you
Any
guys. I
final
love
words?
you guys.
Let's see. They're saying many blessings to the two of you. Thank you both. Greatly appreciated. Sending condolences. A lot of love from this is a lot of your people as well. They're sending you a lot of love, and you just shared that information with them too. They just found out, right, about
Yeah,
your dad.
yeah.
Yeah. So thank you both. That was beautiful. Yeah, I appreciate your audience as well. Thank you guys for interacting with us. It's nice to meet all of you guys, even though we haven't met officially, but please and blessings to all of you guys. I love the both of you. I love you too, whoever Orozco.
Yeah, because this is actually the longest interview I ever did. So I know
Really?
a lot of
Okay.
people got to know me more outside of some of
Yeah.
my clips. You know, because even
Awesome.
like literally the last like 4 weeks, because I just had 13,000 people. In the last like 4 or 5 weeks, I did like 40 something thousand people on this Instagram page, and
Wow.
it wasn't even from the video that went viral, because I have a lot of sounds that's like all over. So the sound,
Yeah.
if it's negative, I'm busy, didn't really build the audience. It's bring your own piece. Like that video hit 2 million views, and it's like
Nice.
that one made a lot of people like find me.
Look at the impact though, and like you said, even around the pandemic, for me too, I think I dove deeper into my healing, intentional healing during the pandemic as
Yeah,
well. It was
yeah,
brewing. I mean, it's been brewing from childhood, but
yeah.
I didn't intentionally understand that certain things that happened to me in the past were affecting who I am today. That's why I decided to get on the path of healing. And it's time. The
No,
universe is forcing us to do so.
no, it's true. Definitely true. Also, cause like I say, every day they like, man, when you starting the podcast, when you doing this, I got you guys. Like I say, I just want to just make sure everything is situated. But if some of you guys would like to do a live or come on live, just send me an inbox, and when I pop on, I can reach out to a few of you, because I want you guys to get to know me. You know, as I grow, as I travel this world, and like we all, and it's different because like I said, I work in the entertainment space. I work with my son. This lane is nothing like the entertainment world, so that's why I'm so happy too. Like I'm so happy because with these spaces, you really build your space. So
Yeah.
I feel safe here. Like the music business
Yeah.
is its own world.
Yeah.
So
You're yourself. You can breathe,
yeah,
you can breathe. And it's like, I did the last two episodes is called the mask we wear. We're all walking around with masks
yeah,
and we're dying inside, but smiling. There's a Nigerian artist called Fela. I don't know if you've heard of Fela Kuti. He's a worldwide artist. He was known like back in like the 60s and 70s and
okay,
80s. He has a song called Sofa and Smiling. It's Sofa and Smiling. A lot of Africans, a lot of African Americans, a lot of Black people, a lot of humans. Let's not make it a Black thing, but hey, we all know our history. We're doing a lot of suffering on the inside and smiling on the outside. So it's like suffer, and smiling. And again, like I said, the best, when I took off the mask
yeah.
was the best thing I ever did for myself. So that's
Yeah, it's another quote that I say. Well, I said, if you've never been 100% completely,
Orozco family. Yes, Loretta, may I DM you? Yes, you may. Please DM me. My inbox is always open. Go ahead.
like I said, if you've never been 100% completely honest out loud, then you have never been yourself in the presence of anyone. And sometimes, like, how could people like connect to you, who you are, authentically, if we are never ourselves and a true representation of self? And I just wanted to answer that. They say, Hudson, will you be doing a podcast tour? Um, I think it's with your son soon. um, like I say, I don't know if my son. Yeah, I knew it was your. I don't know if my son is doing anything anymore. I'm letting my son grow. I'm letting him. He running track. He loves school. He don't even come home from school. The boy go to school and stay after. So he do stuff I don't even know. Like I didn't go to school when I was supposed to go. My son is different. He's beautiful. He did everything. Like he's seen the world, been around the world. So I could guarantee myself, like people all over the world still reach out and want to book my son. He's enjoying his life, and every day his like people that love him reach out. So I am, like I say, when it comes to like the documentaries, because I got my son from like 4 years old all the way to 15, us traveling the world, a whole bunch of unreleased footage. And so wherever I choose to like put that documentary together with my story collectively, the book, like all of these things are coming, you know, and I'm happy to give these things to you guys. And as we grow and everything that's taking place, but I plan on doing everything. I plan on doing everything, and I'm one person, so I literally got to build my team and do everything. And it's all coming and coming and coming and coming.
Indeed. Blessings. What an honor. I don't want my phone to die on you. It just alerted me
Yeah,
5 minutes. I mean, five percent
and
left.
this was a
But I'm
long
just,
live, so this
it
live you
was, it
definitely want
was.
to
And
save it too,
yes, I'm
because
going to
we've been
save
on for
this.
like
And
I thought it was like 2 hours, but this thing is like super long. This thing been on.
yeah, well, that's amazing. Again, thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna close out with the sounding bowl. So anyone that wants to stay on and enjoy the sounds of healing, you're more than welcome to. But again, thank you, Dash, and I'll be reaching out to you soon. And
Yeah.
please feel free to reach out anytime. And I can definitely see what we can do is probably just figure out the next topic that we're gonna talk about, and I think that'll be amazing.
Like I said,
Thank
you
you
see
so
how
much
I work.
again.
Just let me know. I don't really be needing no practice. Like I just be needing a day and
Okay,
like okay,
so
I'm
just let you
on.
know.
Yeah, and we
Just
make
let you
it.
know the topic.
Yeah, we
Sounds good to me.
make it simple. I could
Awesome.
flow with many
Blessings.
different things.
Take
Thank you
care.
guys all for joining. Please reach out to me. Like I say, any advice, you guys booking any events, you guys looking for speakers, you guys anything, one-on-one sessions, all of that. You know, we family. So thank you.
Blessings. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and
You
enjoy the
too.
family and condolences again.
Thank you.
Peace.
Appreciate it.